All right, all right, all right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I am joined via Zoom by a killer cast of characters. I'm going to make sure we got you all on the screen here so everybody can see your lovely faces. We've got none other than Hayden Holm from Salty Saints. We've got Hayden Carroll, all right, from Let's Talk with Hayden. And we got Ben Kaiser, a man on the ground in Michigan. Our man in Michigan. It sounds like a movie from the 70s about like a spy or an assassin who was for the USSR and meant to actually operate clandestinely behind enemy lines in Michigan. None other than Ben Kaiser himself and me, your humble host, Cardin Ellis. And today we're actually going to be talking about this little gem that dropped today out of Church Newsroom, okay? Many of you guys have seen this graphic floating around, that there be some changes coming to Sunday school. It's official. I don't know how to interpret this other than I think Elders Quorum is going to really suck if it didn't suck enough already. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to be Debbie Downer on this. I don't want to.
Hey.
I don't want to be Debbie Downer on this. Okay. But before we go any further, I just want to call on Sister Emily Susan Pack to give us our opening. Emily Susan Pack is
Intel.
She's going to give us our opening. Our not invocation. She's going to give us our
opening hymn.
Our opening hymn right here, which just dropped from a friend of the show, Emily Susan Pack, and it's hilarious. Here we go, Emily.
Bringing a visitor to church this week, so everybody don't be weird. A visitor to church this week, so everybody don't be weird. Political things, shut your mouth. Bigfoot is Kane, shut your mouth. We gotta walk to Missouri, shut your mouth. Cola theory, shut your mouth. On my mission, shut your mouth. We did an exorcism, shut your mouth. I had dinner with a ghost, shut your mouth. I give a blessing to a goat, shut your mouth. Hey, all of the wards from the west to the south, everybody shut your mouth. Just talk about Jesus. Oh, baby, shut your mouth.
There it is. All right.
I love it.
True or not true, though? True or not true?
100% true. 100% true. All right. So I actually had a lady from my ward send this to me today because we had just brought our neighbors to church a couple weeks back. And that song, I don't know how she just peered in my head and was able to pull out word for word all of those lyrics. But that's exactly what was going through my head as I was bringing my normal and natural neighbors to church and saying like, hey guys, please, let's just please have a great time. So they want to come back. I've got skin in the game on this one. So let's be normal.
Okay. Be honest. Okay. I never understood the people on my mission that said, I love bringing people to fast and testimony meeting, because in my mind, that's a 50-50 gamble. It's either amazing, it's either amazing or it's just, wow, sister, holy crap, what you spoke to the wolves. Okay. That was, yeah. So of those three that she mentioned, who's heard the talk about the exorcism on their mission? No takers.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Okay. Mission stories that have borderline into the almost unbelievable, mostly for missionaries that served in Brazil. There is a trend. We have to admit there is a trend. Okay. Second,
sure.
Bigfoot is Kane. I never heard that one. All right. But the political stuff from the pulpit, yeah, holy smoke. There's been a lot of stuff, even as somebody who has a very wide berth of what he considers is permissible political speech and application of the gospel. I've heard some crazy stuff from that pulpit that just makes me cringe. So, yeah. Shut your mouth.
100%. There was one time on my mission, not to be like all mission guy on you here, but there was a time on my mission where we had investigators at church and a guy got up and he was just like, I need to repent. I have had impure thoughts and I need to repent of them. And they have been about that woman.
No.
And he pointed at the Relief Society president. And we were all just like, oh. So I pulled out my photo album. I'm just like, who wants to see America? Huh? Hey, isn't this great? But man, I tell you what, those members, they find a way to keep you on your toes as a missionary.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, it was wild. Wild.
Bro.
And so it was really uncomfortable. Yeah.
That tops anything I had. I had some lady talking about how her chickens were, one of them was a Leahona, and she talked to her dog, but that pales in comparison.
That's just par for the course. Yeah.
Don't say that. No.
Hayden, you've been oddly silent. Are you just in a completely normal ward full of
I don't know.
normal
I mean,
people?
no, I served in Utah, so like they were normal there. We were fine. So I don't have all these crazy stories.
Oh, dude. No, I've traveled quite extensively, and I've heard some wild testimonies out there, man. I've heard some wild testimonies. I will say, maybe it's not 50-50. I'd say it's 2/3 good, 1/3 bad. But man, those bad and awkward ones, they really do stick with you. They really do stick with you, and they make you think for a second before you want to invite your friends. So obviously we're all happy to bring our friends to church, and we're speaking hyperbolically, but bless you, Sister Pack. Yeah, we believe you crushed that one. So thank you for your opening.
She did. That was super cool.
Yeah, thank you for your opening song. Dude, we did a concert for her locally here in Los Angeles just like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm about to post it, and also I gotta give her the footage as well too. Phenomenal. She's hilarious. If she's ever in your neck of the woods, you gotta invite her to church with you, and she does freebie concerts. Like it's actually super interesting and cool. So anyway, let's dive right in. Let's just dive right in. Thank you to everybody that is coming into the chat right now. We're super excited to have you here and have you present. If you have any comments you want to give us, please make sure that you please send them to us via Super Chat. We're going to do our very best to read all of the Super Chats as they come in. Also, please make sure you like the stream as you're coming in, because we about to start talking about these changes made to Sunday school. So who wants to give us the summary here? Hayden Carroll. What's the summary? What's happening,
Are
my
you
man?
sure you want me to give it? You want the negative already?
No,
Just
you know what,
the
Ben,
basic
Ben,
points.
Ben.
Coming in hot. Look
Ben,
at that.
Ben.
Salient points.
Ben is the
Yeah.
most
Woo.
neutral. Ben is the most neutral, and he's got that Midwestern, affable. He's the only guy I know that can pull off the David Beckham haircut without looking like a tryhard. So, what's going on? Tell us what's going on here, Ben.
I mean, basically, in my mind, they can't bring back the 3 hour. Don't ask me why, other than they didn't want to walk it back. But they decided to split up second hour. So obviously, sacrament meeting's the first hour that we meet, and the second hour now, instead of every other week. So Elders Quorum Sunday School rotation, it is now 25 minutes, which I'm guessing about a 5-minute break, and then 25 minutes of Elders Quorum or Relief Society on the back end. And it's the same with youth. So I've seen both sides of it. I've seen, like, if you make a pros and cons list, they're both filled up pretty evenly in my mind.
Okay.
I have my own opinions about it, but that's pretty much it. That's the biggest change that just got rolled out.
Okay, so who here has heard some positives? Speaking of positives, I'm actually really excited. Brad Whitbeck, he's late, but he just joined the chat. Brad,
Hey, how's it going?
it's going.
This Zoom conveation just got a lot brighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Okay,
Hey.
so Brad, you
Are
came
you
in-
all depressed about this?
you tell us why we should be happy before we have a little cynical pity party.
Okay. Okay, guys, here is my thing. Riley and I, we are currently teaching 17 and 18-year-olds. And I've got to tell you, man, when we leave a challenge for our class and then have to wait 2 weeks to follow up with them on it, and oftentimes end up having 4 weeks when we have like some kind of state conference or some other function gets in the way of the class, and then we end up missing them for a month, it's crazy. It's really rough to actually have a solid, meaningful relationship with the class that we can actually keep working every single week on. So
Yeah, it's almost like
I'm
third
very
hour
excited
work.
for that.
It's almost like third hour was a good
Third hour
functional
was
thing.
fine. Third hour
Yeah.
was good. Third hour was good for the time that we had, right? And so I am totally cool with this church supported and like home centered family learning, right? And honestly, have you guys heard about Boyle's law being applied to this? I can't remember who I saw mentioning this.
Mm-mm.
So Boyle's law is that gas will expand or contract to fit the container that it's
yeah.
in, right?
Yes.
And so, right,
Yeah.
with us, if we only have 25 minutes for a lesson, um, my wife and I were talking about how our youth, we normally talk for like 10-ish minutes, getting things out after what we talked about for the past, what we went through for the past week and everything. But hey, now we only have 1 week to go through instead of 2. And now we have a little bit more pressure to get into the lesson and get focused on it. And look, if the lesson's going to be bad, at least it's going to be shorter. And then we have more time and room for improvement on focusing in. I think this is an absolute win all around. So I'm psyched about it, man.
I love you, Brad, and I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, when you guys were in the group chat, I was like, "Oh, I need to
Gotta get in there. Yeah.
Okay. Hayden, you're next clockwise. Go, Hayden Carroll.
Okay, so I think it's a move in the right direction. I think the youth program, great. I think splitting up second hour, great. Here's my one concern. I think it's all good except for one thing.
You're gunning for the red chair. Go. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not in charge. President Oaks has the keys. Let him do what he wants to do.
Let him cook.
What the Lord wants him to do. Totally cool with that. If I was in charge, why? I don't think we should have just another Sunday school with the men and the women after Sunday school. I am not a fan of just saying, all right, we're going to study general conference talks by the sexes. I think that time could be used much more valuably, like much more effectively. Like here's my one little change. Do scripture for 2 out of the 4 weeks of the month and do general conference 2 out of the 4 weeks in Sunday school. Let Sunday school be Sunday school. Let quorum and the Relief Society be fraternity and sorority. And I know those are loaded words, but we need people to bond.
No, I'm here for frat Sundays. This is great.
No, but I mean, think about it like this. Like they were learning doctrine, but like think School of the Prophets. It's like they loved each other because they were doing things and talking about things that mattered. And it wasn't just like reading from the scriptures. They did that. And we do that in Sunday school. We should. I'm not saying give up Sunday school and general conference talks. I'm saying put them in their proper place and let those times where the sexes are separated. And I'm not saying I have all these ideas on what needs to happen, but I think there's a bonding opportunity totally missed with this. Now, how do you make that work in a worldwide church? I don't know. But I know there are lots of brains in the church that could figure something out, probably in this call right now. I don't know. Hayden, home.
Yeah.
We always talk about like Elders Quorum is wasted. Like, what do you think?
Hayden's our watchdog. Hayden's our watchdog for the men in the church. You know, he's kind of like the ADL is to Jews, all right, as Hayden Home and Salty Saints is to Elders Quorum. So tell us how we should think, Hayden.
Thanks. All right. Well, yeah, I've been looking at these changes, and I think, it's going to make it challenging for elders quorums if they are going to try and encourage more brotherhood to be built. One of the things that was addressed in the FAQs under this change was they took out that quorum should be counseling every week. So they specifically said quorum should not be counseling. Let's focus on learning from the general conference talks.
Now that's just not another Sunday school. That's all it is.
Right.
Why are they doing this?
Kind of turns it into
necessarily. It's not just another Sunday school because it's a separate focused on the needs of your elders quorum lesson, right?
Yes.
So in my mind, we need to be focused in on the needs of our quorum. It shouldn't feel like just another Sunday school, because the lesson needs to be adapted to the capacity of your ward, right? And meet them exactly where they're at, meet your elders quorum where they're at, and help them reason together, right? That's,
Yes.
I think, a great.
Maybe I don't have faith in the Elders Quorum president.
No.
Tell me what it is.
No,
Then
I think
sustain him.
Brad's on the right track there. So I think even though this will make it more of a challenge, I do think that elders quorums can still build that brotherhood. They can still make it all happen. They're going to have to become really intentional about it, though. So if they are just going through that old, outdated mindset of just read a general conference talk, then it will just devolve back into 2 Sunday schools every single week. But if they are getting intentional, which is what I'm hoping that they do, they should be figuring out what the needs of the quorum are. And then they can actually start creating topics that are supported by general conference talks around the needs of their quorum, which would be my hope. And then they have probably 1 or 2 discussion prompts that help them understand, that can pull the wisdom and the experience of the quorum to help everyone kind of learn together in a way that builds brotherhood in an authentic way.
Can you do that in 25 minutes, though? Name one other fraternal organization, and we are a fraternal organization but okay, you say yes. Can you name one other precedent for another successful fraternal organization that does it in 25 minutes and has data to show that actually works?
I don't need to. I don't go off of data. The Lord asks and I do it.
I get that you're obedient. I get you're obedient.
I will say, Cardin, I did this 2 weeks ago. We had was it a 5th Sunday thing? Where I'm an elders quorum teacher right now. And they asked me to teach a thing after an emergency prep thing, because they wanted to do, they had this emergency prep thing that needed to go to the Relief Society and the Elders Quorum. So they asked us to combine that, and we effectively ran exactly what we're about to start doing, which is half of it went to the, to that program where they were talking about emergency prep. And then I got the other half for the lesson. And in fact, I got a little bit less than half for the lesson, and it still went great. We were able to have a really good meeting because the people were bought in, our ward was focused, and we were all trying to lift where we were standing and help each other out. And I think that's going to be the case for an awful lot of people. So I think as we approach this, if we approach it with an attitude of, how can I make this the best it can possibly be for my ward, and look at ways I can use this to better serve my fellow man, we're going to be in a way better position, right? And I think it'll only edify us as we focus on doing it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Something else to add. Did you notice the wording around sacrament? It said the sacrament meeting could be up to 60 minutes. Up to. Wasn't like a hard 60 there. So
yeah.
So that could be really interesting, because you might see maybe fewer talks. Maybe it's just, instead of like 1 youth and 2 adult speakers, maybe it's just 1 youth and 1 adult speaker, and you end early, and maybe that gives you some extra wiggle room, in some of these other classes.
That actually is one of the better arguments I've heard for this. Before let's just go straight. I'm going to read these super chats, but before we read the super chats, let's go straight to the actual article. So everybody that's watching here that may be unfamiliar with the article knows exactly what we're talking about. But as of yesterday, changes to the Sunday class meeting schedule. 2-hour church to include weekly Sunday school, Relief Society, young men, and priesthood quorum meetings. The article says the following. It's very short. It says, in advance of the upcoming General Conference leadership session, the First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has announced upcoming adjustments to the Sunday class meeting schedule to support members in their efforts to be lifelong disciples of Jesus Christ. They say that the adjustments will strengthen gospel learning in homes and congregations throughout the world. Okay. In 2019, they implemented 2-hour church for home-centered gospel study. Members have embraced the changes, and they think additional adjustments, will be necessary to be introduced to further enhance learning, fellowship, and worship. So we went from 3-hour church to 2-hour church, alternating in the second hour, whether we do Relief Society and Elders Quorum or whether we do a mixed gender Sunday school. Now what they're proposing is that second hour actually just be an hour divided into two half-an-hour increments. They basically have a 5-minute break between each one. So you have 5-minute break, 25-minute class, 5-minute break, 25-minute class. Okay, and this has been met with mixed reviews. The next one, before I give my opinions.
What are the poll results?
Okay, you know what? You bring up a good point.
I'm curious.
Ooh, look at that.
With the mixed reviews, I'm like, how mixed are we?
Yeah, we'll go past the super chats straight into the poll, and the poll says 82% think that this is good. What's wrong with my people? Okay, wait. Hold on. If you think this is good, if you're a member, I'm not going to tell people that if you think this is good, send me a super chat, because I don't want to pimp the suffering of my people. You know what I'm saying? I don't, but I do take issue. Right now. Oh my gosh. I'm going to let Ben speak first. After I read these super chats, then I'll give my heinous opinions before I absolutely offend everybody here, okay? Before I do, though, now that we're all here, I just want to remind you guys, we got the Salt Lake City Takeover General Conference Eve coming up Friday, April 3rd, 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are available at wardradio.com. Please make sure you check out wardradio.com/events to get your tickets there, or you just follow the links to the events page. It's going to be a lot of fun talking with Jared Halverson. Brad's going to be there. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be a gas. It's going to be a gay old time, as they used to say. So, I'm bringing it back, bro. I'm bringing it back, dog. So, here's the super chats really fast. I got to talk some reason to some of these people. Very one is NeoNugs 9198 just gives us a super chat. Thank you very much. Then says marriage proposal in NC in the early 2000s in testimony meeting. Get out of town. A marriage proposal in North Carolina from the pulpit. Boy, Emily Susan Pack would have something to say about that. Paulie Nikes,
that's wild,
says, as a gospel doctor and instructor in Arizona, I alluded to the Cain as Bigfoot theory earlier this year while we were there in Genesis via the Come Follow Me manual. Awesome.
Winning. Absolutely winning.
I was going to say dude, anybody that can slip Bigfoot is Cain into anything. Is an automatic alpha chat. Gork, this one's for you, Brad. Gork says, I'm afraid of saying anything that might be considered negative about this change in front of Brad with a zip over his mouth.
Oh, no.
Brad, you rule with an iron fist. You rule with an iron fist.
Yes, a Canadian iron fist.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So intimidating. Yes.
A ketchup chip dusted fist. Yeah.
That's right. Oh, man, I need some of those. Or all dressed. If you guys haven't had those, they're so good.
Cool.
They're pretty good, yeah.
Ed2276 LDS says, so does this mean no Elders Quorum round table and snacks?
No, I think you should still do that. So I was actually talking with Kurt Frankum about these changes. We should have had him on here because he's a guy, he actually does the round table snack and chat. He does, and his Elders Quorum is next level. It is phenomenal because he's currently an Elders Quorum president. And the thing is, what he does is he actually has a separate lesson for every single table in the gym. So, because he's in Utah, he's got a big ward, he's got a bunch of guys. So wrangling them has always been tough. So he has like a group of 6 or 7 teachers, and they just rotate each week, and they say, all right, can you take a look, find a topic that's interesting to you, and can you prepare to speak about it to your table? And so they each sit down at a table. There's other people there, and then you just kind of filter in, go sit at whatever table you want, and you're each going to have your own lesson, which is pretty cool.
So he's subversively building the kingdom by breaking the rules.
Well, I don't know if that's breaking the rules. You're still talking about conference talks, you know,
Yeah, he's just adapting it to his ward.
to his local
Like,
needs.
Yeah,
Well-
at least for me, like often my lessons in elders quorum look an awful lot like, hey, here are 3 key principles I think would be really interesting to discuss with you guys. Let's vote on which one you think is best, right? Which do we need to talk about most? We'll prioritize that first. And that's gone over really well with my ward.
Okay. Good job, Kurt Frankham. He better have a dang good elders quorum, you know. But of course, Kurt Frankham can do whatever he wants because he's the right age. He wears white shirts to church. You know what I'm saying? he's got the papal bull of the establishment.
Yeah.
He's as far, you know, renegade as you're allowed to go before they start just thinking you're apostate. You know, so he's allowed. He's the one renegade that they allow in the church.
Now, the thing I really like about these changes, real quick, sorry to cut you off, but is that I think it's going to force everyone to just lock in as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not going to have a whole lot of people just kind of just wandering. You're not going to have like that awkward, like setup, takedown kind of middle space where people just are looking around. They're pulling out their phones.
Make people lock in? Like, what precedent do you have to to me, this is wishful thinking, not necessarily informed thinking, because you could say the same thing about 2-hour church. I really think 2-hour church is going to force us to lock in when all it really did was the youth were the casualty of losing third hour. We have an entire generation of the church now raised without Boy Scouts. And like, we're producing beta males faster than the local public schools can. All right. And
Carden, what are you talking about?
what?
Why do you think that our church
difference.
just pumps out beta males?
Dude, there was a marked difference between those that were raised with the scouting program and those that weren't.
I don't know. I mean, I was raised with the scouting program, loved it, got my Eagle Scout. It was great. It was fantastic. I don't know. Maybe my ward areas have just handled the transition a little bit better. But because I know that you're feeling a little bit stretched thin out there in California, right? Like you guys have had a harder time, I think, than probably some of my wards have. But that's mostly because a lot of my ward, they just, like my ward I grew up in, they kind of didn't really stop. Like one of the dudes, he's still just a scoutmaster and like has continued working with the youth outside of church, right? And so like there's other stuff you can do still too.
Okay.
Yeah. It's when you get into scouting specifically, there's some really sad reasoning behind why the church had to abandon that ship.
I get that, but we
Like,
cannot.
It makes sense.
We cannot look at this tripartite youth program that they cobbled together 5 years late and not feel that it's a replacement.
Well, that's part of why I'm excited about whatever new Strength of Youth pamphlet stuff is coming out. So that's also part of this.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I need you in my life, Brad. I need you to counter.
Look at that.
I got you, man.
I need you in my life, Brad. Whew. Okay. Neo Nugs, because I still haven't given my opinion yet, but I'm sure people already are starting to slowly figure out what it is. But Neo Nugs 9198 says just have one speaker in sacrament meeting and make it 45 to 50 minutes to allow more time in the second hour. I think that would be a wise decision. It's not our decision to make, but I have often said and repeated what Jonah Barnes pointed out, that sacrament meeting really should be just about sacrament. And it wasn't until the Lutherans came around who took the sacrament table from the center and the speaker from the side to put the speaker in the middle and then the sacrament table on the side. And he said, if I could have my way, sacrament would be right in the center of the room. We would all circle around it as we sit, perform the ordinance, maybe have one spiritual thought from the bishop or from a leader, and then move on to Sunday school. And I'm a huge fan of that because to me, then the reverence of sacrament would be far more preserved, and the importance of the actual ritual, because it is indeed a ritual and ordinance of the church, I think would be better preserved. But that would get in the way of the corporate Memphis in the Come Follow Me manuals and the importance of the church office building And so we can't
Is
have
there
that.
corporate Memphis in the Come Follow Me?
There's a lot of corporate Memphis in this graphic that's on everybody's screen that we all saw today. I mean, what's up with that dude's haircut? You're the one that brought that one up. Remember that, Brad?
Wait, let me pull it up real
Which
quick.
graphic?
In the group chat this morning where you said, "What's up with that dude's haircut?" Remember where you can you see it on your screen right now, Brad?
I
no.
can't.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's the changes.
Oh, is it the icons?
Yeah, the icons in the changes to the
Oh,
Sunday
yeah,
school
yeah.
class. Yeah, dude. It's right there. So anyway,
Yeah.
if you can't see it,
He's got a very small tie.
Yeah, he's got a very small tie, and he's got a very looks like a monk from the Middle Ages, right? So let me finish reading these super chats, and then we'll go to Ben right here.
And Cardin, this isn't corporate Memphis. This is just icons.
Okay.
Corporate Memphis is so much worse. I feel a visceral need to clarify. Corporate Memphis is so much worse.
Okay, Pauline Ikes says, Cardin, can you explain how this change is an example of the two churches' schism within our faith and connection to worst generation COB employees? Actually, yes, I can. But
don't
no,
get him started.
But-
Oh, no.
Why?
But not,
We're going to
but-
be here for hours.
let me cook. Let me cook. Okay,
Go
just
for it.
let
Go
me
for it.
cook. Scott B296 says, as a former elders quorum instructor, I remember being worried about, quote, filling the time. If I still had that calling, I would worry about covering what is needed. Well, that's good to hear. And Legal Schmiegel says, if shortening the meetings to 25 minutes makes it so there isn't enough time for the teacher to divide class into small groups, it will be a success. Okay. And then Gork says, I'm excited to see the elders quorum each week. For anyone that's in primary, this should feel very natural. Primary teachers can get a lesson done with a bunch of 5-year-olds in 20 minutes. Adults can do it too. Yes, you're right. So why don't we just admit that this is a juvenile decision meant to dumb down the gospel, dumb down the gospel into sound bites, which is part of our problem in the first place, thus creating a less literate generation of churchgoers, not a more literate
Less
one.
literate.
What are your studies that support that 25-minute lessons will dumb down children?
You know,
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Only every study that went into the No Child Left Behind Act. But
yeah, that certainly worked now, didn't it?
There were some good parts to it.
Of
There were
all
some
the
good parts
things
to
for
it.
you to reference,
It's
like-
this look, I didn't say their solutions were good. I just said the studies were good, right? So I don't think
I
socializing
question everything about that.
I don't think socializing education is the answer to a deficiency in education. Okay. But I do think the studies that caused educators alarm were very insightful. All right. So, and there's myriad of them and they're very, very easily accessible. That's why I mentioned them. Am I going to get in trouble for this, Brad? I just part of
I mean,
me
that's
is-
between you and the Lord, man.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
okay. I've said this before, and I think Ben will vibe with me. I feel
Yeah, I haven't heard Ben's opinion yet either.
yeah, I feel like I can strangely anticipate any bureaucratic decision our church is going to make by how it will make boomers more comfortable and less guilty. Okay.
What?
I'm telling you, you can, the through line of all of these decisions, the through line, whether it's getting rid of Boy Scouts, whether it's going to 2-hour church, whatever it is, okay, that I can predict, whether it's shutting down all the churches because, oh no, Brother Williams, you know, is worried about coming to church. Never mind, we're going to destroy our youth for 2 generations. Oh, but the 85-year-old guy who watches one too many hours of CNN, you know, is I just feel like you can best predict the changes the church will make by what's going to make boomers more comfortable and what is going to make them feel less guilty about their failures. All right. And so whether it's getting rid of the home teaching program because they sucked at it and calling it ministering so they don't feel guilty about sucking at it anymore.
Cardin,
You know,
why Why do you think ministering equals getting rid of the
no,
home
look.
teaching program?
I'm just saying, bro. Okay, you asked for my opinion. I'm giving my opinion here. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It seems obvious that losing 3-hour church to me was a failure. There's no replacement for displacement in racing or in sports. You can't teach height. You ever heard that phrase? You can't teach height. I'm 6'5". I play a bunch of guys that are 5'6". I have just an indomitable advantage that is just natural and it can't be taught. No amount of training is going to make somebody a foot taller. Okay. So in racing, we say there's no replacement for displacement. The ministry of presence requires one thing, and that is time. Okay. And I really kind of feel like 3-hour church, we sacrifice the youth program, at least where I live, at the altar of 3-hour church. And instead of saying, yeah, maybe we should go back to that failed experiment, no. That would mean we did something wrong. You know what I'm saying? And boomer bureaucracy can do no wrong. So obviously skipping, like you say, sucks. Every other week church, we can't go back to 3rd hour. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to divide up second and then just have 2 30-minute meetings, and that'll be fine. So then still, boomers don't have to work as hard, but also then we can kind of get it all back. That's a good Band-Aid, right? Well, dude, a man can't serve 2 masters, and everybody knows 2 25-minute meetings just means we're going to joke around in the first 15 minutes about sports for Elders Quorum, just in time to have somebody bear their testimony in a crappy way because the guy's unprepared anyway, and then dismiss ourselves, and we're going to have 2 meetings instead of one halfway decent one, and call me cynical, dog.
What? Yeah, that's cynical. That was the most cynical thing I've heard you say, and that's saying a lot. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. It's not that bad. Here's the deal. I hear what you're saying, Carden, because I think what we're really being presented with right now is actually an opportunity, right? It is absolutely an opportunity to have things go the direction you just described. Maybe that will happen in some wards. Maybe some people will head that direction. But I think that this is an opportunity for us to actually make things better. I really do think that the Boyle's Law thing I was talking about with that, how compressed the time is going to really speed things up. I think it is going to make it so people don't chat for 15 minutes and then we get to the 10-minute lesson. I do think it's going to make people take their callings more seriously. I think it's a much more manageable thing to say, hey, I can go and teach for 25 minutes. I can definitely do that without having to worry about whether you're going to be teaching a full hour, right? I don't think that you need to have an hour-long discussion in order for it to be meaningful. I think if you think you need an hour to make a meaningful discussion, I think you can maybe take a few teaching lessons, and figure out how to teach better. It's not
from your new Sunday
thing.
school presidency. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's ultimately up to us, right? What are we going to make of it? Are we going to let it be the kind of thing that drags us down and makes us angry that we have to be involved? Or is it the kind of thing where we're going to say, hey, what are the advantages that I can get out of this? And how can I make this better, not just for me, but for everyone else at church, right? That's my hope anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you
it seems like it might be similar to the change from home teaching to ministering, a little bit like that, where the stakes are higher now, so it's like it could be really great or it could fail even worse than before.
So I asked in my defense, okay, I asked an ex-bishop of mine. Okay, I actually did some due diligence and I asked an ex-bishop of mine. And I'm going to write what I read in the group chat. I said, I asked blank, my former ex-bishop, and every bishop what improvements the 2-hour church have been over the 3-hour church. And they all mentioned convenience and church work / life balance, which is understandable. But they also all uniformly agree that the loss of the 3rd hour most negatively affected the youth. And the youth need the lessons and the spiritual defending more than anybody. This bishop said, quote, the true casualty of 2-hour church has been the youth in 3rd hour. And it's true, but we can't go back to 3-hour church because that would mean boomers have to do something more this year than they did last year. And that's anathema to the boomer church. So what's left? Two 25-minute segments, which
That's
means
not
really,
the only possible option, though.
do you think
I'm
our
sorry,
youth
I cut
program
off. You can finish. You can finish reading the thing.
do
that
you
were
think our
saying.
youth program has improved by the elimination of third hour? Or do you think that there is, just like a mark in a generation of those before Scouts and those after, there's not a mark in a generation of those before the youth, before third hour and after?
It's hard for me to say because I wasn't a youth, nor was I engaged in the youth, and I didn't have a child in the youth program, right? So I think that you're approaching this from a much closer place because you have older kids that were in the youth program in a way that mine weren't yet, right? So you saw some of these things where I think you're maybe feeling a loss of some stuff that I just
Well, also,
didn't interact with.
I've always volunteered with the youth I'm a podcaster. The young men want to come over and do a career night for podcasting. You know, I was always, even after the church divested from Boy Scouts, I was serving as a district roundtable chair in the local district of the actual Boy Scouts of America proper, their internal organization, not just in the church's liaison organization, right? So uniformly, most of the bishops I've talked to have said there are pros and cons of 2-hour church. One of the pros is convenience, you know, and those that demand convenience, no matter how badly it hurts their children and their grandchildren, boomers, you know, the same people that make it so you can't afford a house, Brad. Remember those? Because you get just as angry as I am. Yeah, okay, cool.
I know.
You get just as angry as I am when we talk about the affordability crisis. You know what I'm saying? But it's like those people, okay, I feel like, yes, church is now more convenient for them. But isn't the purpose that it's not convenient? Why do we waste our time quoting Joseph Smith that the church that doesn't demand everything of its membership doesn't have the power unto salvation? Why do we even let those words pass our lips now? That we're streamlining everything to a point where I'm like, why do we even have churches? Like, seriously, it's like, are we just trying to phase out chapels? Because when I see a chapel, I see an amazing potential community organization that could change the world. But apparently, I'm the stupid one. Because what they
I don't think
see,
you are. I think we absolutely could be using the chapels more effectively. I don't think that needs to happen with 3 hours of church. I think this is the kind of thing where we can exercise our agency to find ways to make awesome stuff happen, right? But of course, that's going to look different depending on which wards you're in. I want to hear what Ben has to say about this before I
save me,
go
Ben.
down a route.
Yeah.
Save me from myself before I get clipped and lose half my donors.
No, I don't think I'm going to save you. I think I'm going to make it worse. I mean, all right. So if the youth is the first casualty, elders quorum is certainly a very close second as to what was really wounded. Number one, I spent years trying to cultivate greater instruction and edification in elders quorum, and that was a stake-wide endeavor with a friend of mine, and it just was very difficult to do. When that change occurred, there was a palpable difference very quickly, and I've never felt personally connected to elders quorum ever again. And that's no real fault. In fact, probably a month or two ago, my elders quorum president was speaking with me, and I just was blunt with him. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea when activities are, if there are any, service opportunities, nothing. I'll get a call every quarter about ministering. I'll tell them, yeah, I've been texting with them or meeting with them, or I gave this guy a tool or something like that. And I get that this is just isolated in my ward or stake, but I'll tell you one thing, which is I agree with about 10% of what Brad said. So meeting people where you're at is a crock of crap. That's in the same vein as do your best. It's in the same vein as when people talk about milk versus meat, we have this discussion all the time. You're lowering the bar. In fact, I saw a comment on X about this. It's like, oh, isn't it great that the church is really lowering the standards? They use words like accessibility. I get all that. I really do. But when do we raise the bar back up? When does the meat come back into it? Elders quorum is suffering just like most of the instruction church-wide. And I don't care if it's an hour. I don't care if it's 25 minutes. we can have that, which we were having that conversation, but I have the expectation when I teach, and this is probably why I got released from gospel doctrine and instruction, but you come prepared. I don't care if we're talking about a conference talk. Number one, I'm rarely going to reference that. You all should have read it. I'm not going to read it verbatim. We're not going to tell the same stories. I don't care if it's a come follow me lesson. You need to be prepared. You had it a week, and then when 2 hour came, it was 2 weeks. So I didn't miss me with any of this, which, again, I got released, so you got to take all this with a grain of salt. But I truthfully, that's my expectation, and I get what Brett and so, like I said, a couple of things. So mark of a good teacher is the ability to distill complex ideas into a more digestible or accessible, let's say, curriculum, but that doesn't mean dumbing it down. That just means that you can understand it better, you can engage with it, and also quickly and effectively. So, and I also agree with making the best out of it. The change happened, we got to roll forward, but it's been the same way, whether we had 3 hour church, whether we had 2 hour church, now whether we have the 25-minute segments. We need to find a way to engage. And I've heard some great ideas in the group chat and even tonight about how elders quorums can make it more. And I know I'm really focusing on that because I really think the men in this church are suffering badly. And I get that youth was the number one sufferers. And like I said, it's close, but I think the men are at a pretty pivotal and fragile point right now. I think this is, again, a step in the right direction. If you're going to do something, I don't really like it, but I'm thrilled that they're going to at least meet on a weekly basis. I get that we're not going to be counseling per se. I don't really care about that. I really care about having that support network and being able to share ideas. And I don't care what anybody says. Think of all the stuff you guys have shared in the group chat about all the excellent comments, messages, emails that you get over the years about, oh, I fell away or my testimony was slipping. But then I found Ward Radio, or I found this podcast, or I found this podcast. And what do? We talk about things. We counsel together, essentially. And we talk about, let's quote, deep doctrine, even though I'm not really. But that's what happens when you dumb it down. And I know what Brad's saying. He's saying, well, no one's saying dumb it down. It's almost an inevitable consequence. We're talking about greater magnification and discipleship, and that's really lost on a lot of people, and you have to drag people. I see this at work all the time. I got people that I believe in years before they even believe in themselves, and I got to drag them kicking and screaming to a promotion. It's almost the same thing with callings. I have extracted things out of the handbook. I've distilled it. I've created documents and literally binders for people. Here, this is your instruction. This is how often you should meet with your presidency, et cetera, et cetera. And they just failed. So I get all that. But one thing I will say is that if you're going to look at this in a positive note, I'm going to focus purely on elders quorum. At least we get to meet as a quorum for 25 minutes every week.
Hey, really
I
quick,
love that.
Carden, can we put a straw poll or survey? We got almost 400 people in here, like the stream, by the way.
Yeah.
Can we ask the question, like, do you feel connected or close with your elders quorum or relief society? I want to know, like, are people feeling connected? Or, because Ben, I agree with you. I've never, probably not since my singles ward, like when I was in college, and maybe not even really then. I mean, we had friend groups and things, but like adults who have families, are we feeling connected? Because I don't think you're alone. I think you're actually in the majority. But then again, I'm in that, so maybe I'm just biased.
Okay, I just put the Q&A out there. It won't let me do a second poll, but it let me do a Q&A. So I asked, do you feel connected with your local relief society or elders quorum? Okay. I just noticed something, and maybe this is in Brad's defense here. Brad's enthusiastic. So is Austin. But Brad and Austin both live in young, affordable wards in Utah, where it's more lively, effervescent, forward-looking.
Actually, I am in Utah County, but it's not necessarily a young ward. We have a really solid mix.
Okay, you have a solid. We don't. I'm the youngest person in my ward and have been for the past 20 years because the affordability crisis has just like a wet rag just squeezed out all of the millennials and below. So I noticed that it seems like the Debbie Downers, we all share something here. We're in the diaspora. Hayden's in Arizona,
Texas.
Well, Hayden Carroll is in Arizona.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he wasn't talking about you, bro.
Yeah.
Look at that. Sorry. Forgot there was another Hayden on the call.
So Hayden's the other Hayden's in Texas. Ben is up in Michigan. I'm in California. Maybe there's the diasporic Mormons are like, we kind of depend on church more when you streamline it. I don't know. I'm trying to. It's odd to me. Usually you and I agree on stuff, and I am so against this in so many ways, and you are so for it. I'm like, what? How can I explain this? I want to still be friends with Brad. You know, and no, I'm just kidding.
You can be. That's the nice thing.
I'm just kidding.
Just agree with him.
Yeah.
I guess maybe part of this also comes from like, I don't know. First off, I don't see this as a negative. I can see how there may be some difficulties along the way, but I actually think the value of seeing each other weekly far outweighs the amount of time that you're in the same room together, right? The frequency that you're seeing each other, I think, is greater than the like length of time that you see each other if it's every other week. So I see that as an absolute win, actually. But even with the more difficult things, I guess maybe part of this is because one of my favorite scriptures is 2 Nephi 2:2, where as Lehi's talking to Jacob, he says, like, hey, my firstborn in the wilderness, thou knowest the greatness of God. You've seen many afflictions in your days, but I will consecrate these for your good, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the gospel pattern.
So they're
if we
purposefully introducing an affliction in order for us.
I'm saying even if there are afflictions as fallout of part of this implementation, we can turn those into our gain, right? Like that is what the gospel does. It turns stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And I think way too often the world just wants us to turn every single stepping stone we're ever handed into a stumbling block instead, right?
Okay.
And trip ourselves up on like, oh, what are all the ways that I can like make this a bad thing that slows me down, right? Which can happen, right? Like I get it. I get what you guys are saying, especially because like home teaching wise, I actually had my best home teachers ever in college, Hayden, like you were talking about. And then I actually did not get home taught at all, even when it turned into ministering, until my current ward. It was like 10 years of not a single visit. And I'm in Utah County, right? Like it was just hey, now we are no longer actually checking in on you guys at all. And I think it was just, it's not like I had bad home teachers during that time or that they were bad people who weren't engaged or who didn't care about what was going on. Like, we just had a challenge that we had to deal with.
I mean, does anyone think that ministering was a great success? I don't know a single person who's like, yeah, this is the best thing that's ever happened. Sorry to interrupt you. I don't think you're alone.
No. I don't think. What I was pointing out is that it was that way for me before it was ministering, right?
I just know a bunch of wealthy
Ministering
snowbirds. Oh, sorry.
What ministering was an opportunity for us to exercise our agency better and to recommit to doing better. And this is actually something I want to get across because I think I might lose the thread of the thought before we finish. But one thing that I've really focused on, at least with my elders quorum and with the class that Riley and I are teaching, is we always teach for a challenge, right? At the end of our lesson, you are not leaving a lesson with us without some form of an invitation, right? Because if we are not inviting people to change in some way, we are not helping them come closer to God. There's got to be something that we're aiming toward to help raise that bar like Ben was talking about. I think that should be the direction we're aiming to go. And so, I don't know, at least for me, I think if we can focus in on how it's going to help us change for the better, then hey, it's going to be a change for the better. We can spend all of our time focusing on how it's a change for the worse and like multiplying the ways that it will be bad, right? But I think this is kind of a seek and ye shall find sort of principle, right? If you seek problems, you can find them. But if you seek the reasons that these are going to be good, then hey, you will find those too. It's not like those don't exist just because you can find other bad things, right? Does that make sense?
It does. I just like Elijah want to just have a challenge and a rap battle with the golden idol, just the golden boomer The golden
There
boomer.
we go.
You know what I'm saying? That yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I brought Austin in. Austin just joined us. Austin Falter
Yeah,
from
you summoned me when you started talking. I hop on for 2 seconds, and you're like, Austin and Brad are always disagreeing, so I had to come. Clear my head. Well,
So
this
bail
is
your boy out. Bail your boy
This
out.
is an absolute win for the youth.
What?
I could care less. Listen,
What?
I could
Well, for the
care
youth.
less
Austin.
Okay, let's talk about the rest of the
elders
church.
quorum. Let the elders go be lazy, dumb,
Wait,
and
wait,
then
wait.
do whatever they want. I don't care. I care
The
about the
same-
youth. That's all I. Hey, shit. All I freaking care about is the youth. And here's what I know: this is a win for youth. They're going to be in their quorums every single week. There's going to be a sense of brotherhood. They're changing the curriculum, so now Young Men's isn't going to be doing "Come Follow Me." They're doing "For the Strength of Youth." Now, when I was being raised, my time in Aaronic priesthood, that was where you learned standards. That was when you had hard discussion about what was going on in your life. And we haven't had that for years. And now it's back with the new curriculum. We've had scripture study in quorum meeting, and that's great. But we've been missing out on the For the Strength of the Youth. It's a huge win. And I started reading the new booklet today, all right? It's freaking based, guys. It's freaking based. Chapter 1, Jonah Barnes would love this. Chapter 1 of the new For Strength of the Youth. It's not God has a plan for you. It's God's plan is for you. That is such an important paradigm shift. God doesn't make a jillion different plans. He makes one, he has a plan, and you can get on board or not, right? Jonah's always saying that. And I am so here for it. I think they're doubling down on helping youth with this change. And that's all I care about. So elders, I don't care if it ruins elders. If the youth
Austin,
are benefited, we're golden.
I just want to reiterate that I think some of the same benefits that are coming to the youth are coming to the elders.
I agree with you. I just
psyched.
can't die on that. They'll all pounce on me if I agree. I'm doing it for the children.
Look
So-
at that.
Let me
Okay,
ask
Austin.
Brad.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
you
yeah.
one question, Austin.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned some things that you thought were improvements, principally among them being able to meet every week with their appropriate quorums and talk about, the intricacies of their lives and so on and so forth, which I think is great and is what we did in third hour. When everything you mention good about the new program is what we already did in third hour, but actually had enough time to fully flesh out, it makes me think that this is a cope trying to get back the old thing when you don't have enough pride to admit that the 2-hour church served one class of people, not the other, and we lost so much of the third that we need to go back, but we don't have the fortitude to admit we were wrong. So can you name in one measurable quantifier?
I'm not arguing for a 2-hour church here. I'm already at the church longer than that most weeks, and I think there's pros and cons, right? There's pros and cons. What I'm saying is this is a net positive change from where we've been.
Okay, sure enough, you're allowed you're allowed to say that. Hayden's got a question for you.
I also think that Elders Quorum needs a Boy Scout program more than Elders Quorum. And more effective than a lesson would be putting fishy crackers on the table and coloring pages and sitting in a circle and talking rather than reading a conference talk. I'm with you on all of that. Okay, I'm with you on all of that. I just think this is going to be a huge benefit for youth.
This is why Austin Falter is destined for church greatness and will be an Area 70. He will be an Area 70 because you can, when in doubt, throw the elders quorum under the bus.
If that ever happens, I'll just send him a few of the most controversial Ward Radio episodes. I'll be fine. I'll get out of that quick.
Yeah.
So just say, oh, wait, are you sure? Have you seen this video?
Oh, that's funny. So can you hang out with us, Austin, or do you have to go? You look like you're about to do
I got a
interviews
few minutes.
or something.
No, I just got back.
Okay, cool. So, yes, I put up on the screen just so you guys can notice, we did indeed get the new For Strength of Youth pamphlet out there. Austin Falter says it's fire, but Austin Falter also thinks this horrible change is a good change. So just take that with, a grain of salt. No, I'm just kidding. Hayden Carroll, you had a question, and then I'm getting back to Super Chats. What's your question for Austin?
I feel totally validated by Austin. Thank you very much. So, Brad, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you that we need to make the best of this, right? If this is what the church is doing, let's own it, right? My question
Mhm.
for you is, could you think of something more effective that could be done in Elders Quorum or Relief Society outside of reading conference talks or studying conference talks? Is there anything else that we could be doing, or is that the number one? Like, is that the best we can come up with for that time? Like, we just came from Sunday school. We're reading Words of the Prophets every Sunday.
Mhm. Well,
What's your view on that? Like, could that time be used more effectively or no?
could that time be used more effectively? I think that depends on what you're saying with how you measure effectiveness, right? At least for me, I find it incredibly valuable to counsel with my ward members about the active direction coming straight from the church. I
But
don't
why
think
can't
that
we do
these
that in Sunday school as well? Like I said, I'm not saying
we could, right? And maybe they'll change that at some point. Like this has changed multiple times over the years, right? They used to have Elders Quorum and Relief Society on completely different days, right? And primary, like all of our meetings used to be spread out
But I'm
in other
asking you, if
times,
you were
right?
in charge, is this how you would do it, or would you do it a different way? If
Uh,
President Oaks called you and said, "You get to choose,"
what
are
would I
you going
do?
to be like, "That's
Well,
exactly what I would do, President"?
here's the thing. Here's why it's a weird question for me is because at least right now, I'm serving as an Elders Quorum teacher, right? So I kind of get to choose, and I kind of like exactly what we're doing. I've really enjoyed my Elders Quorum and the way that it has grown closer. You guys have mentioned a couple of times, like sitting in a circle. We totally do that. Like my Elders Quorum sits in a circle every single time that we meet to begin. I literally have everyone go around and introduce themselves, say their names, and then give an answer to a unity question, right? And it takes some of the time, but it works. And like one time it was who would win in a fight, Nephi or Moses, right? Like it doesn't have to be some serious question, but then it gets these guys talking to each other and like being like, yeah, I'm team Moses, I'm team Nephi, whatever, right? And they start defending a position and then they start being comfortable talking with one another and then we just have a discussion. And what I always try to do is focus in on the principles behind the talk that was given, right? And like Ben was actually saying, I don't think anyone should be reading the entirety of the talk or even the majority of the talk through their Elders Quorum lessons. I think a much more effective lesson is for you as a teacher to pray and ask Heavenly Father, what will my Elders Quorum benefit from with this outline that we've been given, right? What is it that they need to hear most out of this? And then let the Spirit guide you on that. Use a couple of anchors from the talk itself, but have that be something that guides discussion that is uplifting your quorum, right? I think you can have exactly what your quorum needs in this structure. Whether we could come up with something else to do, whether it's going out and doing service or having a cookout every Sunday or whatever, I think you can make the most of whatever structure we're given. So does that answer your question sufficiently?
Yes, I think it does. So you're I think you maybe would agree that if it's just another Sunday school, that's not what we're looking for. Would you agree
Yeah,
with
I
that?
don't think it should be. Yeah,
Okay. That's what I'm
Yeah.
and at
worried
least in
about.
my
That's what
ward,
I'm worried about, though. That's what it's going to become. That's what I'm worried about.
at least in my ward, that's not the way that it's treated,
Okay,
right?
good. And I'm
Well,
curious.
it seems like
Hayden-
you're magnifying your calling, Brad.
Yeah, and most people don't.
I'm
It's
trying
great.
to,
When I said
and I
President,
magnified it through being annoying because if I wasn't
Hey,
happy
look at
with the way
that.
things were going,
when I gave you the
like,
hypothetical of President Oaks calling you Hayden Holmes, eyes got wide. So I want to know what he would say to President.
What I would say?
Yeah, what would you tell
Like what I would do? Oh
If he
man.
told you you're in charge of this, figure it out.
I tell you what, I have so many ideas for elders quorums because I've been talking with men for such a long time. But what I would do, I tell you what, regardless of the length of time, I think a lot of the changes that I've seen, a lot of elders quorum presidents doing, these are intentional ones, just like Brad. These are ones that are annoying. These are the ones that are like, we can't turn it into Sunday school. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with the banner, maybe with a poster sign at the very front of the parade saying, no, never Sunday school 2.0 in elders quorum. Get rid of that. So what I would love to see is something that Carton and I, we just did an episode about this. There is something
Great
cool
episode. Top ward radio episode for sure.
Oh,
And
what
Hayden
was
Holmes
the
has been
title?
top on
What was the
quorum.
title, Austin?
I don't know, but that it was
Your elders quorum is probably dead. Here's how to fix it. So if you're saying one of our best top tier episodes was recognizing the elders quorum sucks and that the current status is horrible, maybe making it more horrible is not the solution.
Yeah. So I would say implementing as many of those ideas that we discussed in that video. There is a new video that we just recorded recently talking about something that Kurt Frankham actually does at the very end of his elders quorum, which is called a circle of trust. And in the circle of trust, every table that he has set up in the gym, they each end the meeting at their own, basically their own time. Whenever their lesson ends on the table, they each gather together and they each ask each other in that circle what they can pray for each other. And so every man in the circle gives something up and says like, hey, maybe my parents are in the hospital. Their health hasn't been great. I'm needing some prayers for that. Can you pray for me? Or, hey, I've been looking for work. Can you please pray for me? Or something else, And so then these guys get together and they call it a circle of trust. They put their arms on each other and they pray for each other by name at the end of every single elders quorum. And I'm like, that's something that we got to get out there to more people. And you don't need an hour to do that. You just need, I just think we need to just shake up the format, just like, hey, let's just keep popping some of these ideas in there.
Crackers and coloring pages. I'm telling you, it is proven. It is a proven
I'm
method.
sold.
Every single guy in this little chat right now reacted as though they wanted that. I saw their hearts jump out of their chests. I've never had anything remotely close to what you just described in my entire adult life now of 20 plus years in the church. And you have to think, why is that? Like, why is that?
You know where I first saw that, Kurt?
Well, because they're not interested in that. The governing body of our church and the culture of those that are in charge is not interested. They're addicted to suburban boomer niceness culture and pleasantries. No, putting your arms around each other as men and saying, what do you need to get prayed for? Ew, that gives boomers the ick. We ain't going to do that. We'd rather just read.
What are you talking about? The boomers are the kind of people who want that most in my world.
No, they're the kind of people that think you need to pay more for health care so they have a more comfortable retirement. That's who it is.
Garden, no. Hey, wait. We should hit
this
some super
man.
chats,
I need to come to your ward and just meet some of the boomers you got over there. I think that'll help me a lot.
No, you got it. They're everywhere. There's this small group of people. They control everything. They're not just kidding.
Yeah. And it's the boomers. So Garden, we should hit some super chats.
Yes, I'm hitting them right now.
I'm just glad boomers aren't like an ethnicity, or we'd be in real trouble all the time. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
they are in our church, white. But no, I'm just kidding. So here we go. Here's the super chats. Thank you for reminding me, Brad. M. Parkinson says the new For Strength of Youth pamphlet is fire. Yes, I hear the same. Sarah Vandally 1407 says, this is how I teach primary already. A lesson, then singing time. The Spirit is the true teacher, and I will know what needs to be focused on most. Okay, I hear that, but at the same token, I can't look at Lehigh in the Desert by Hugh Nibley, knowing that it was the priesthood manual of 1964, and then think that, God doesn't want that depth of knowledge. Okay, he really, really wants us to be more like primary and less like Hugh Nibley's Lehigh in the Desert. Like which
Garden is there someone in your ward stopping you from bringing things up about that in your lessons?
Bro, first off, if you only have 25 minutes, there's far less time for commentary, first off, okay? And second off, let's face it. Look at the width and breadth of culture in the church. Have we gotten deeper in our doctrinal understanding or more shallow?
Shallow.
Why do you guys think we've gotten more shallow? What is
Because
making you
in
say that?
1938, J. Reuben Clark saw this coming, saw it happening, and warned, and nobody heeded that, and we've been regressing ever since.
Ooh, it sounds.
What is the evidence? So you gave me a date and then doubled down that we're just regressing.
Yeah.
What makes you guys think that we're actually regressing, that we're not as doctrinally understanding?
Aren't
Like,
you
look at the
the
number of
evidence of
people out
that?
here. What?
Aren't you the evidence of that? Look at all the people that go to you and say, I've I've grown stale. I don't participate. I don't go to church or this or that. And but discussions like this help me and revitalize my testimony or revitalize my interest. Then I started studying this and this and this. I mean, this is what he said, and you should read it. This is the cornerstone. It's called the Charted Course of the Church in Education. And this part right here, now, of course, he's talking about seminary and institute, but he says the youth of the church are hungry for things of the Spirit. They are eager to learn the gospel and they want it straight, undiluted. They want to know about the fundamentals, just as he set out earlier in the article about our beliefs. They want to gain testimonies of their truth. They are not now doubters, but inquirers, seekers after truth. Doubt must not be planted in their hearts. These students crave the faith of their fathers and mothers. They want it in its simplicity and purity. And all I've heard and seen, like I said, we had specific stake callings to try to increase the quality and effectiveness of the instruction. And it didn't really go anywhere. We talk about a good youth program, and you can have a good teacher, you can have a good presidency, but the parents, the leaders, the adults of the ward, that is really what's going to strengthen the youth. And right now, the men, like I pointed out earlier, they're suffering most. And I feel like it's because of this. We're not pushing anyone to magnify their calling. I serve right now, and there's an elders quorum that he just president. He does everything himself because his counselors are kind of just nowhere. It's like we don't push these guys. We don't hold anyone accountable because it's like it's like a volunteer thing. It's like no, you raised your arm to the square just like I did. We have commandments. We've made covenants. You need to show up first and foremost for yourself. And I don't think the church instruction has done that. Now, I loved a couple of things that have been said. I think that's great. And actually, the first place I ever saw that, and I don't know why I didn't consider it, was actually a Jordan Peterson interview. At the end of it, he said, "Is there something I can pray for you for?" And I thought that's really awesome. And so when I interviewed a bunch of women at women's conference, that was my last question every single time. Is there something that we can go to the Lord for you on your behalf to pray for you for? And it elicited a lot of emotional responses. I think that's awesome, but I also think that we need to make sure that we're challenging the men. Brethren, I need you prepared. I need you ready to speak. And I love what you said because that's exactly what you got to do. Screw the conference talk verbatim. You got to pull out the principles and doctrine. What was he talking about here? That's what we're going to discuss if we are going to talk about conference talks. But don't let him get away with just this same old story. Hey, yeah, buddy, I've heard that 6 times. What other insight do you have? I'm not afraid to call people out or tell them that they're wrong or that they're wasting people's time. Like we shouldn't have any of that. It's not about tearing anyone down or making them feel bad. It's literally about strengthening people. I know you're kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm dead serious.
Well,
I don't let people
let,
waste
let
other
me
people's
say
time.
what I would
Go for
do instead. At least what I found to be the most effective teaching method, rather than finding a way to correct somebody and tell them that they're wrong. What I try to do is look for, hey, this is a shared truth in what you just said, right? And we're going to build from there and find a way to build on that truth. And that's actually been really effective in making it so that, hey, I don't have any people who are feeling like they're getting called out in class. They're just getting built on the truth that they do know and that they are
Jesus
speaking
told
on, right?
Peter, "Get thee behind me, Satan."
I do agree that we need a bit more accountability in church, especially among men and in callings. I think that's cool. I like that. I mean, as a missionary, you learn how uncomfortable it is to extend an invitation, right? And you kind of have to learn that because you're being direct and like, and then you also have to learn how to communicate fairly to get people to stretch and grow above where they're at. And so I think, yeah, I'm all for that. The Bible talks about, do it in private first. I don't think this is a calling out in class type of thing. I've heard plenty of horror stories of the elders quorum president who gets up and says, "I'm doing everything myself. Why don't you guys do your ministering?" and just makes it uncomfortable by judging his entire quorum. I don't think that's helpful. But one-on-one, I think there's a lot more room for more boldness, more accountability, and inviting people, lifting people up. All for that.
Mhm. And one thing I do want to point out is when we think of like the most effective missionary ever, and we consider the way that, hey, ministering is literally just missionary work to members of our ward.
Right.
I look at the example of Ammon, and I consider things like, hey, when he's teaching Lamoni, this is actually one of my favorite scriptures in the Book of Mormon, in part because it's the shortest, but also because of the way that it shares a really, really good teaching moment. Ammon asks Lamoni, "Do you believe there's a God?" And he says, like, "I don't know what that means." And he says, "Do you believe that there is a great spirit?" And he said, "Yea." And he says, "This is God," and builds on the shared truth that they had and accelerates from there to Lamoni's fantastic conversion, right? Like, I think if we begin where we agree, we have a much firmer foundation to actually come together as a quorum and build toward one another. Because that's what I'm hearing from you, Ben, is that you're trying to find a way to make sure that your quorum is actually spiritually fed, right? Like you're not wanting it to be a milk situation. You're wanting to help them get to the meat that they want to find. And I think the way that we do that is not by pointing out necessarily what isn't the meat that we need to get to, but saying, hey, this leads directly to the meat, right? So that's
I
at least
gotcha.
what I'm pushing for.
Yeah, and I get that.
Not in a
Yeah,
way that I think we should never have any form of correction. I just think that's a effective
Yeah, and
way to do it.
I probably came off a little too frank. It's not that I go, "Hey, you're wrong, shut up." It's more of like that's not even in the ballpark of what we're talking about. Let's get back on track. Do you have any thoughts about what we were just discussing, or do you want to just derail? Not verbatim. That's
Mm.
not what I say. I'm obviously
Yeah.
more nice and
Yeah.
punctual
No, I
in
get what you're
person,
saying.
but yeah, truthfully, there's so many men out there that, all right. When I was a kid, and I hate to be this guy like that, but there was always something going on. The men were always communicating. They were always out giving blessings, visiting homes. And I'm not saying it's a consequence per se of policy now that that's the consequence of changing that. But I will say there is an incredible divide from one generation. And we're probably two or three removed now from, growing up. I was going out home teaching with my grandfather. We were visiting a bunch of people. And now he was bishops, for a little bit, but still. Now I don't see that happening. And of course, we're in charge of that because the ministering program gives us a lot more freedom. I can go visit
But my
ministering assignments.
RV. But I got a snowbird. But I got a snowbird.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Listen, I hear you. I hear you. I think we're on the same page, and I agree with Brett. He's definitely a little bit more diplomatic than I am in terms of his articulation.
I'm just
but
Canadian, bro. That's just this. We're born this way.
Okay, so here's the other super chats. I'm going to burn through another
Yeah.
10. Canuto says should have one prayer at beginning and one at end with 3 meetings in between instead of 6 prayers. That's fair. Paw 13W says going to end up with last minute gospel thought right before the kids knock down the door to go home. I miss when Relief Society was a separate day church. Oof. Yeah, I got to tell you, man, if it only ever gets shorter. It only ever gets shorter. And I can't look at the generation that crossed the plains and them doing church for like literally 18 hours straight and not think there was some kind of correlation between the spirituality of the members and the amount of time that they spent going to church. Okay.
Yeah.
Canuto says win Banyama for MVP. I don't follow sports, so I don't know who that is. But Alicia Brown, member for 25 months, wow, said half-hour sacrament and 1 hour class time is easier for those of us who spend all of the sacrament chasing kids.
Amen. Amen, sister.
Yeah.
Think of the children.
Think of the children. That's right.
That's funny.
You are doing the Lord's work, sister.
Right there. Yeah.
Okay. Grork says it doesn't matter what the church policies are. There will be people and wards that will succeed with whatever tools they are given. Use it as an excuse to hype up the ward for change. That's fair. And
That's the attitude, I think. When I read stuff like, you guys know the story of the 12 spies sent into Israel?
oh,
This one has stuck with me forever.
Not
with-
recently by Iran. You're talking about the one in
No.
Joshua.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Look
No,
at
no, no.
that.
Yeah.
Topical. Hey.
Yeah, in the Old Testament, I really, really love that story where you have this opportunity that they have. God has told them, "We're bringing you to the promised land. Send in your people to see how you're going to get in there," right? And they have them come back, and they have, of the 12 that were sent, Caleb and Joshua say, "Hey, the land is amazing. It is flowing with milk and honey. The Lord has given us such an amazing land," right? But there are 10 of the other spies that all murmur and say, "Oh man, there's giants in the land. How are we ever going to defeat these people that already are there?" And when you look at the story, the only two that actually make it into the promised land are Joshua and Caleb.
That's
The
Brad and
story-
Austin.
You're the only
That's
safe
Brad
one.
and Austin.
No, I was gonna say you're the only safe one, Brad.
No. I
Murmuring up in
think-
here.
I think that this is teaching us a principle like deeper than like just agree with everything, right? I don't think that's what it's trying to say. I think what it's trying to say is that this is a portion of faith, right? Like, do we have faith in God that He's called prophets and leaders who have given thought to what they're asking us to do? And do we have faith in Him to make these stumbling blocks, if they're stumbling blocks to us, into stepping stones, right? That's kind of the attitude I have towards it. And I think that it fits what G.R. Rourke just said. So that's why I wanted to bring that up, but we should get back into the super chats.
Yeah, G. Rourke is cousins with Mickey Rourke, just the baptized brother that now is a member of our chat. Ed2276LDS says, "How will we make the march back to Jackson County if we don't even have the stamina to make it through a 3-hour meeting day?" Ooh, savage. That's a friend of Ben Kaiser's right there. And he also continues to say, "When did we become wimps? I grew up in the 60s and 60s with 3-hour meeting days. I didn't see anyone fainting from exhaustion back then." I have a feeling this is a stripling boomer. Ed, if I got a stripling boomer shirt your size and you show up to the Salt Lake City, I'll put the announcement up there, the Salt Lake City takeover, I'm just going to give you one for free because that was a savage comment. That was pretty awesome. Hope to see you there. Paulie Nike says, "With these changes, my new gospel doctrine instruction strategy will be fat electrician style monologues on the New Testament content at 2.5 times speed." Not a bad idea. That's funny. Tracy North simply just gives us a super chat. Thank you very much for your generosity, Tracy. And I got another 5 here. Tristan Evans says, "I don't think the problem is 25-minute class over an hour. To me, the problem is, at least in my experience, the church as an organization has encouraged extra weekly activities the same way Boy Scouts did." Okay, interesting, Tristan. Thank you very much for the very generous super chat. And then Not Your Average Dan says, "I feel, quote, church programs, end quote, have become a crutch for many. The 10 virgins come to mind. I think leadership is weaning us off so we can learn to swim on our own. I think this is being done on purpose." Okay, are we weaning? Like, do you want... What about service to the poor? What about service to the disaffected? Like, the people that I notice are loving this come from generally very well-established, multi-generational, wealthy families that already enjoy many of the benefits of multi-generational testimony and the stability that comes from the type of family that's been in the church for years. Whereas those from part-member families, those in the diaspora, those that are more geographically isolated and so on and so forth, they're struggling with this. And I think, are we trying to go out and find the one, or are we trying to make it so the 99 are more comfortable? What are we doing here? You know, like...
Yeah, I feel like that's a false dichotomy.
It is a false dichotomy.
I don't think that's...
It's fair. It's fair in terms of how can we help our communities and things. But it is false in that, I mean, if you're truly living the gospel home-centered, you're still inviting all to come on Christ. You're doing youth night at your house. You're doing basketball games at the ward because as a member of the church, you can reserve it in the evening and have people over. Like there's so much that individual members can do with the resources that they have and the church. And I don't think it falls on the programs per se to do that. Now, some structure is certainly helpful.
Wait, hold on
but-
a second, Austin. Here's a question.
Yeah.
Here's a test sample. I'm not talking about the great family of 6, 4 kids, two parents, both returned missionaries. I'm not talking about overachievers like you or Jonah and Charlotte or Brad and Riley and so on and so forth.
Or Cardin Ellis.
Or Cardinellis. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You have to be
Look at that. Hey.
you have to be liked by your leadership to be an overachiever. So
No, you don't.
Here's the deal. There's a lady that I would minister to. Husband served in the armed forces, killed in a training accident. She now has 2 children she's trying to raise, 2 boys. Single mom, has to work 2 jobs just to keep a roof over her head. She's stretched so thin already. She's already so dependent upon the church and its programs to help raise her boys. To slowly take more and more and more away from that, how are we more serving her? By eliminating the measurable quantifier of some priesthood holder. Did you go visit her? One of the only classes of people mentioned in the Bible and the Book of Mormon simultaneously, the orphans and the widows. You've got 2 of those on your list. Did you visit them this month? I'm sorry, but as we've divested from Boy Scouts, I don't see that single mother.
Does your ward not do that? Because my ward still does that as part of ministering. When they do ministering interviews, they check like, hey, are you visiting them? Are you taking care of them?
If I could do another poll right now, start a poll. Yeah, I can't do another poll. Dang it. But because
I agree with you that the widows and fatherless need to be watched over, right? Like that's a core function of what the church should be doing.
Yeah, and our programs helped.
I don't think church ball is helping the widow. I honestly, I don't know how much church ball is helping.
Actually, it did in some of my early wards, because then her son gets to come to church ball and has good friends there and is in a much better place than he would be otherwise, right? So like there are things that can be far more helpful than we think.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. So I'm going to start another poll here, right? I hope I didn't accidentally end my stream. Crap, I forgot what the poll was going to be. It was so hard to get through that I had to end the old one and I kind of messed it up.
It was going to be, do your ministering interviews include asking whether you're visiting the people?
Oh, look, I'll say, has your ward improved FaceTime with ministering brothers or not improved? I would argue that the church worldwide, since that change was made, has not improved the FaceTime that people have had together.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question real fast?
Yes, I have a feeling I'm going to feel guilty. I have a feeling I'm going to feel guilty for having perceived the gospel is wrong or something.
You shouldn't feel guilty. Actually, I hope that this one, rather than inspiring any form of guilt, just is helpful for our audience.
Okay.
Have you talked about any of these concerns with your ministers?
Oh, I don't know who they are. I've never known who they are. Nobody ministers to me. Come on.
They're in your app, right? Shouldn't they be assigned to you?
I've never had
check
any
it out.
idea.
Find out who they are.
Live call your ministers right now, bro.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Dude, I don't
Ultimate accountability.
I don't know who it is. Oh, wait, no. In my old ward once, a guy came and ministered to me the day after the assignments were changed. So I've gotten a ministering visit once. Oh, yeah. No, look, nobody asked me to give church talks, like ever. They avoid me like the plague. And I wonder why. Which, good luck. Sometimes it has its fringe benefits, but it's kind of hilarious when you hear members of the bishopric complaining about how hard it is to get people to speak. And it's like, you've literally never asked me, and I've been in the ward for 5 or 6 years. But you know what? Fine. These people, I don't know. I swear, I think my records are flagged or something. I've just accepted that.
He's got that
find out
asterisk.
who they are.
He's got that asterisk.
It's
Yeah.
you guys
Find out who they are.
Don't let him enter the church building wearing a sombrero.
Yeah, seriously, I did.
Because one thing that I'm taking away from this is I am definitely going to talk to my ministers about some of this conversation we've had here today. Because I think conversations that we're having like this online with people that we know and get to know better are good things to then have with people in our area, right? In our local area. So at least for me, if they're not going to bring it up, hey, I am, and it'll be great. Because I think, I don't know, there's this double-edged sword in the church of like, hey, because I've felt this way before too, where it's like, hey, if my ministers or home teachers aren't reaching out to me, then I'm not going to reach out to them. Like, and if they ask if I need help, what would I say? Because I know they don't really care, right? Like, I think we should be humble enough to be willing to ask for help and to reach out to the people who are assigned to us and say, hey, I want to help you fulfill your calling. If I'm going to be sustaining you as my minister, hey, maybe I should be reaching out to you too,
and by the way,
and helping you do your job.
Oh, I'm going to say I'm not a hypocrite on this crap either. I mean, I've sucked at ministering before, but like also I tell my elders quorum presidency, like, oh, so-and-so's a tough case given to me. I'll make sure I see him at least once a month or whatever. Like, because this requires a unique situation or whatever. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it was weak sauce. Getting out of the Boy Scouts of America, I thought was a bad move. It was a bogus move. Figure it out, bro. Play the politics, whatever you have to do. You know, start throwing some elbows down in the paint if you have to, knowing that we're 77% of their funding. But no, we bailed, and the youth program sucks now compared to what it used to be. I don't know a single person that thinks it's an improvement. I think bailing out of ministering has been a net negative. I think 2 Hour Church has been a net negative. And I'm not even some person that's like reminiscing over the 80s and the 90s when church was just better. There was bogus crap about it back then, you know? But it's just all these things are just not net positives. And I wonder, why are we doing this?
Can I point out one thing to you, Cardin?
Yes.
What became of all the people with all of these programs you talk about?
Half
them
of our
being
church,
so helpful and good.
half of our church was baptized through the discussions. And I feel that the missionaries...
Or what generation became what they are now because of the lessons you're longing for and because of the structure you're saying was so good? Was it not the boomers?
I saw where you were going with
Aiden,
that.
I'm wondering if your trauma course had anything about boomer trauma in there that we could
No,
pull from.
I think there is. Yeah, I think Cardin may have been bullied by some boomers, and maybe he's just projecting a lot of that. So
I'm reading some super chats for the Gen Xers and the millennials and the Gen Z that are investing in the success of the program. So Jonah Barnes says elders quorums are not classes. The classroom culture is unnecessary and brutal on men. Hashtag jettison the lessons, bring back the quorum. Takers. Any takers on Jonah Barnes? Not your average Dan says elders quorum. By the way, feel free to interject, guys, if you hear something you like. I'm going to burn through these super chats until you guys interject because I got like 20 of them to catch up on, okay?
Okay. Oh,
burn through.
Yeah.
Not your average Dan says elders quorum needs to become more of a brotherhood rather than just another Sunday school meeting. Very true. LDS Response says elders quorum needs to bring back the school of the prophets. Yes, dude. Jacob Hansen's idea of activities-based stake activities-based interest groups. That's what we need, man. We don't need 25-minute struggle sessions. Ed2276 LDS says, I'm not saying do this every class, but how about a few lessons on the organization and nature of the priesthood, its authority and power, how to give blessings, anoint oil, etc., a priesthood academy. That would be great. That would be great. I don't see how you do that reverently in 25 minutes, which means it probably won't get done, which means I would bet my bottom dollar 5 years from now, there's less deacons, teachers, and priests that know how to do those ordinances than there are now.
Every ward I've ever been in my life has done a good job at teaching ordinances and blessings and those types of things. They'll pause quorum and skip a lesson to be like, oh wait, you guys don't know how to anoint or consecrate oil, and they'll do it in like that's. I will say one thing that we do well, I think, as a church, at least from my experience, every ward I've been in Washington State, in Utah on my mission, the elders quorum cares deeply about the responsibility of giving blessings.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's good to hear. And this is also why the future of the church looks a whole lot more like Brad Whitbeck and Austin Falter than it does Cardin Ellis. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Tracy North gives a super chat. Thank you very much, Tracy. Says, I'm 67 and been in this ward 3 years. My Relief Society checks on me because I can't attend meetings, but have had 0 visits from my ministering elders or sisters. Ouch.
Dude.
On ward radio.
Ouch.
Okay. a thing I want to say,
Mhm.
for anybody in our audience, if you don't know who your minister is, you should be able to look at the LDS Tools app. It's just called the Tools app now. And you should be able to see who your assigned minister is. And I would invite everybody to reach out to their minister, look up who they are, and reach out to them and just say
Even
hi,
better,
if nothing else,
put their
right?
number in the chat if they haven't done a good job, and Carden will call them personally.
Oh yeah.
Dude, if you are an orphan or a widow and you're not getting visited by your freaking church ministering brother, I will rain down hellfire, name the name and the ward that you live in until I shame these people into submission or they drop calling themselves Christian. Like, I'm sorry, I am an orthopraxy guy. I have to, and by the way, I hate to say it, but I don't think the gospel should be enforced through shame. Okay, but at the end of the day, the shame mechanism of, oh crap, it's the end of the month and I have to go home teach because I haven't done it yet. Gosh, maybe that was better to some degree. You know, maybe that was better because I don't know. I don't think ministering is improved. But let me know in the chat if you think has ministering improved the FaceTime. I put that poll in the chat. John Davidson says kick the boobers out of elders quorum. That's brutal but funny. But John, how dare you?
They used to, maybe
no.
that's the problem. They used to be high priests. A lot of them were in the high priest group back in the day.
That's funny. Then LDS Response says, if you want to build elders quorum, we have to serve together. You're so right. Chai Hodson says, teachers make the difference. So more teacher improvement / accountability is good. Also, my son is so excited to go to the Salt Lake City hangout and see Brad and walk out with even more epic role models. You know, at this point, I think Brad and Austin are the role models, you know, because me and Hayden and Ben, we ain't doing so well. Although Ben's haircut is so good. That actually, and he's so dang handsome. I think that's a role model. You know, that's
someone in the chat told me I need to go get the turkey hair transplant. So I'm not a role model in the hair department.
Dude, you look beautiful, bro. It wouldn't make sense with a full Elvis schmooze or pompadour or whatever it's called. Okay, Not Your Average Dan says we can't get through super chats in 25 minutes, let alone elders quorum discussions. Okay, that's true and funny. 3 more left. Paulie Nikes 2000 says, question for Whitbeck. How does discontinuing priesthood session of General Conference and weakening elders quorum weekly meetings to a 25-minute framework make men stronger?
Excellent question. Absolutely not loaded in any way.
I was going to say that had some hot sauce, bro. Jeez.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is it? Discounting priesthood session of General Conference and weakening elders quorum weekly meetings.
How does
to a 25-minute framework? Discontinuing. Can you? I can't see it.
Oh, okay. Let me put it back up on the screen. It says, how does discontinuing priesthood session of General Conference and weakening elders quorum weekly meetings to a 25-minute framework make men stronger?
Here's a question for you. Are you stronger when you choose for yourself to raise the bar and do better things, right? I think that this question kind of has the false premise of needing a structure to be the thing that is pushing you forward, when I think everything about what the church has been telling us for the past, 10 years? I don't know. It's not necessarily 10 years. It's all pushing towards a home-centered, church-supported style, which to me suggests it is much more our own responsibility to work out our salvation, right? So I appreciate the question. I think it's a good one, despite the loadedness, right? I do think that if we want this to be the kind of thing that makes us stronger, we see this as an opportunity to rise to an occasion to make things better. Because now we have an opportunity for change. So let's take advantage of it and make it better and rise up on as ourselves and rise up for our quorum. I think that's one of the key things. At the root of all of this, are we going to church for ourselves or are we going to church to lift others? Right?
Okay.
That is one thing that I think is. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you cut out for a second. I thought you were ending, but you weren't. So finish.
Okay, so one of the things that I think is underlying all of this is we should be going looking for opportunities to serve other people. And if we do that, I think it will help make us rise to the occasion and become better and let the Spirit guide us in how to do that. But we just have to be actively engaged in doing that. It's not going to be other people telling us what we need to be doing. Maybe that was a stronger way to have everybody at a certain minimum, but I think it's being left to us to choose what are we going to be.
Okay. So I figured out how to put into one sentence my aversion to a lot of these changes. We oftentimes reference and justify an acceptance or even an enjoyment of these changes as being good because they're pushing us towards a home-centered, church-supported type of gospel instead of a very programs-heavy culture that we had before. Okay. But I guess I think, okay, to me that betrays our ethos because as Christians, don't we leave the 99 that are healthy to go out in search of the one that isn't instead of trying to streamline the efficiency for the 99 that are healthy? Because I grew up in a ward where sometimes there were kids that converted because they felt the Spirit with a group of guys, got permission from their parents, started coming to church at 14, 15, 16 years old, decided I want to get baptized. Their parents didn't want to come to church, but they're fine with their son going or whatever. So like, how is home-centered, church-supported working for you're really going to throw a come follow me manual at a 15-year-old and say, yeah, get your act together, bro? Or are you going to hope that the Boy Scout master becomes a male role model for him? And the elders quorum president and the young men's president and the ministering brothers and so on and so forth. They get intricately involved in his daily life because they care for him. Like I see home-centered learning being a convenience that bolsters the 99, not a solid outreach that bolsters the one. Does that make sense?
I think I can see where you're coming from, that your concern is, hey, if we are spending less time focused here in church, then we're getting less time for that one person who maybe doesn't have the support system. Is that an accurate representation of what you're saying?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, because I do think that this is kind of the core of what ministering is supposed to be. And maybe I just have been lucky in the ward that I'm currently in, but our elders quorum presidency, the way that they address it, they ask, hey, what are the needs of your ministering families, right? They don't just say, are you checking in? They say, are there any needs that they have that we could be fulfilling? They're asking the kind of questions that Carden will get to exactly what you're talking about, so that then they can counsel about how the quorum can fulfill those needs and better serve them. It sounds like, I don't know, I think that's the kind of thing that needs to be happening. But yeah, hopefully that's the right move.
Okay, Hayden Carroll, and then Hayden Holm, and then Ben Kaiser. You guys are all going to have a chance to take a whack at some of these super chats. Not Your Average Dan says, that's the issue. We seem to think that without the programs, the gospel cannot be fully lived. That is why we need the weaning. Feel free to interject, you guys, if you want to respond. Then Not Your Average Dan also says, a brotherhood makes men stronger. We should meet together often, learn from our mentors. Our brotherhood should not be confined to the 25-minute meeting.
I actually agree with that. Like, I think some of the most successful elders quorums that I've seen as I've been talking with different elders quorums, they actually talk throughout the week. So they've actually established communication with the quorum through like a WhatsApp channel or a Discord or a GroupMe, and they'll actually be talking throughout the week, sharing memes. They'll be sharing scriptures and stuff like that, so that it's not just contained to that little lesson on Sunday.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And last super chat here comes from Lisa Frampton, who's been a member now for 2 months. Awesome, Lisa. Says, would you put comments up on the screen throughout the shows, especially of super chats and Ward Radio members? I also think this change is to push us out to minister more. Yes, I used to have a lot of the comments up using Streamlabs until anti-Mormons would use profanities and other things like that are usually words that are looked down upon by the algorithm. So I had to kind of stop doing that. But also because we restream to multiple platforms, oftentimes one platform doesn't like comments from another platform on it, and the algorithms recognize those. So I've resorted to using this cool little function here where I actually show the physical super chat on the screen as an image, and that seems to be the most efficient method. But thank you for asking and your concern, Lisa. Also, you think the change is to push us out to minister more. I don't know. For me, I kind of feel like rest is important, but most people yes, all of us need a cheat day if we're trying to lose weight and gain muscle mass. But if you start quoting the need for a cheat day too often, you'll notice you're just getting fat. And as a person who's done a really good job of just getting fat, I can tell you that, I don't know, I feel like we don't need more cheat days. Does that make sense?
What about you?
Amen to
Makes this
that.
feel like it's more cheat days?
Less church feels like more cheat day. I think is the shorter
Well,
church. I mean, fair.
Which are we saying, like, because right now, ultimately, we're getting about the same amount of time with each group as we were before. It's just a different structure, right? Because if you're seeing your elders quorum every single week, which I am psyched about, I think that's going to be so much better. Instead of once every other week for a longer period of time, ultimately you're spending about the same amount of time with each other, right? So at least if we're talking about the change from current structure to our church to the new change, then I don't see how that necessarily applies. I get what you're saying, though, if you're saying like, hey, 3-hour church and you're longing for the days of 2-hour church.
I've never met a soul who doesn't miss priesthood session. I've never met a man in the church who doesn't miss that. So I'm with you on it. You know, I can see and understand the frustration.
Dude, I would love priesthood session coming back. That would be awesome.
Well, so here's I'll just take myself as an example, and feel free to mock me for this. But this is a church that I grew up in. And science shows that churches, especially those with rites of passage and community, produce the most well-adjusted children. And despite my odd circumstances growing up, I feel like I'm a pretty well-adjusted person, all things considered. And man, let me tell you, I would go to priesthood session with my dad. And when I turned 12, that was one of the things I had to do. And I learned that, okay, you have these duties as a deacon, and you have these duties as a priest and as a priesthood holder. One of them is going to this meeting that's just for men that hold the priesthood. Mondays I knew was family home evening. Our family sucked at it, but every once in a while we did it. But at least I knew we don't schedule activities at church Monday nights because we're expected to do family home evening. Tuesday was young men's, young women's. Wednesday was Boy Scouts. Thursday, my dad was the stake athletic coordinator, and whether I was watching him play men's basketball or whether I was going to play my own deacons, teachers, or priests basketball, which was actually a popular league in our town, so much so that even secular people would come to watch the games. The gym was full, okay? Thursdays I was there. Fridays, if I wasn't at a scout camp out, I was playing in some church basketball tournament or some league or whatever. And then Saturdays we had cool activities and dances and this and that. There was always something to do at church where I was meeting good and wholesome friends and participating in a peer group that was awesome. I was also seeing ad nauseum positive role models of priesthood holders and parents. We have now divested from every single one of those things that I've mentioned. We no longer have stake athletics that are taken seriously on any kind of scale whatsoever, almost anywhere. Okay? We no longer have Boy Scouts of America. I look at my son, I work 3 jobs. Okay? And one of them I don't even get paid at, which is Ward Radio, but it's practically a job with the amount of time that I put into it. All right. And so it's like I work 2 jobs and I run Ward Radio. And I look at my son and I'm like, yeah, okay, I need to step up. I need to take him camping more. Like at 12 years old, he doesn't know how to do things that I knew how to do at 12 because of Cub Scouts and because of Boy Scouts and the exposure that it gave me to men that had different careers and could do different things. And now I'm actually making a spreadsheet on my computer of, okay, where were the places I went as a kid where I could go camping that are within 30 minutes to 60 minutes, and I might be able to take him and his buddies. But whatever hour or whatever weekend I can carve out once every 90 days does not make up for the once a month overnighter that I went on all the time because we had a robust scout program. And I will not be able to provide for my son in a home-centered youth pseudo scouting program that is now hoisted on me as an already overworked 2-job dad. I'm not going to be able to provide him with his robust exposure to the masculine arts of everything I learned from fingerprinting merit badge by the guy that actually did it at the sheriff's station to the aviation merit badge from the guy that actually run the Young Eagles program. I can't be a merit badge counselor to my son for the 21 different badges that I got as a kid. I can for 3 or 4. And I consider myself a pretty dutiful father. But dang, if I had a program with other guys behind me like we used to, my son probably would have more. But now I got no priesthood to take him to. He's got no basketball league to come and watch me play with other men and learn how to interact with other men their age through example. There's no, like none of this exists anymore. And is the expectation really that I just need to buck up and do everything that all the programs did for me 30 years ago? Or maybe divesting from all of them was a bad choice and we're no longer serving our members as well as we used to, while we're making life really convenient for the people that actually benefited from the programs.
So Cardin, my question to you is, what's the alternative?
Doing what we did before.
And just no. I mean, like, if the alternative is sitting on your hands and not doing anything, then yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm doing
do
everything I can.
That sucks.
I'm doing everything I can, but I recognize my son is not being served by me as an individual in this home-centered system as I was served by my community in the programs-based system.
I want to hear what happens if you talk to your ministers about this problem. I am really fascinated to hear what would happen if that conversation were to happen. Because I don't know if that's necessarily the answer, but I'm really curious to hear what would happen.
That's part of the answer. But what do you say about scouts and church basketball and priesthood?
This is where priesthood session is really helpful, because they actually all the talks are just step up, you're failing. I mean, if I could petition for one thing,
that is exactly what priesthood session told us every time.
Oh, it was so good. It was just a painful, like, this is right. I needed,
Yeah. But I mean, like, think about 2 Nephi 2 for a minute, right? We are either objects to be acted upon or we're agents to act for ourselves. And so when we have a problem that we want to overcome, what do we then do? Do we not address the problem and not do something about it because we think somebody else ought to be doing it? Maybe that's true. Maybe someone else should be addressing the problem. But if they're not, what do we do? Right? I think that the best thing that we can then do is be an agent to act for ourselves to solve that problem. And maybe that means reaching out to ministers. Maybe that means finding something outside of the church's official structure that you're finding a way to be interacting with, right? This makes me think of something. My wife and I were just talking about how lucky I was to have such good friends in high school. And what was really fascinating was a lot of them were not members of the church.
No.
It was great. and what was interesting is not every single one of them was a member of the church, but they were good people. And I think you can find good people outside of your ward to help solve these problems that you're talking about, Cardin. But I do think if we can solve it within our ward, that is better, right? So I'm curious to hear what happens, because maybe, because again, like, you're dealing with a different problem than I am. My kids are young enough, they haven't had the same issue that you're talking about now. And I'm in Utah County, where I think there's a stronger support system there than there is in California, especially with the number of people who moved away. So I'm not saying this to say like, Cardin, just step it up and then everything would be fine. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Like think about what you can do and ask the Lord to help you find the way to go there, right? Like, because I think the Lord will help you find the answer that is within your capacity to accomplish. And I don't know who that means speaking to, or whether he'll just give you extra
Brad,
strength to do the things you need to.
Can you just give me this one? Can you just give me this one? Do you remember when you were a kid and you were playing tag in the schoolyard? And there was always that person where you're chasing him down and you're about to tag him. He'd turn around and be like, time out, right before you tagged him because, he wanted to call timeout so he could run off. Do you remember when that happened?
Pardon, do you think people played with me at recess?
Okay.
That is so flattering.
So
that's sad.
To me, what this seems like is we ran the programs of the church successfully from like the 1920s and 30s all the way up until a certain generation that is the most spoiled generation on earth had to start giving back to the system. And when it became time to start giving back to the system, they said, whoa, wait. Home-centered. That's what we need to be doing. And just like the kid that calls timeout right before you catch him, it seems like once they got the benefit out of it, everybody that was no longer in the program that didn't want to have to put into it, which was the insinuation of the culture of our church, all of a sudden, strangely and conveniently, got very interested in home-centered learning. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know, man. I think it's a separate thing. I think that the home-centered learning 100% came before COVID hit, right? Like it was an inspired
Boomers
thing
were lazy pre-COVID. They were.
I am not contesting that boomers have been lazy, Garden. What I'm saying is I do think that our church really does have inspired leaders who are operating outside of their own self-interest to give some of these changes that we're getting, right?
Yeah.
Like, of course, they're not going to be batting 1,000 every single time, but I think that this is the kind of thing where they're seeking revelation. And at the end of this article, by the way, it does say, can you read the very end of it? I wonder if it's in the article or if it's something.
Yeah, it's right here.
It specifically says that these changes will be to the benefit of our people.
Okay, it says the fifth Sunday, while the length of sacrament meeting remains unchanged, leaders are encouraged to deliberately consider ways to strengthen the quality of worship and help sacrament meeting become more central in the lives of Latter-day Saints. Relief Society and Elders Quorum. I'll find it while we go over this last super chat. And then Hayden Carroll.
Hold on. We've heard a lot about Elders Quorum in this stream. I think we got to hear about Relief Society for just a minute here.
Hit it.
All right. This is my wife, Tracy. What do you think of the new change going from hour-long every other week Sunday school Relief Society to now 25 minutes Sunday school, 25 minutes Relief Society every single week? Go. No. You haven't thought about it?
No, I know.
Okay, we'll give her a minute to cook. We'll ask her in a few minutes.
She's off the hook for one super chat. Ben Kaiser and Hayden Carroll, you guys get a fight over this last super chat because I haven't heard from you guys in a while. So here's the last super chat right here. Kyle1 says, nothing was as critical in my youth as attending priesthood session with my dad, uncles, and cousins. That was my initiation into the priesthood and manhood.
I don't know. I think me and Ben agree on this one. I agree with basically everything Ben said tonight, so we're chilling big time.
We're chilling. Okay.
Does anyone disagree with this guy? Like, not priesthood session the best thing, and then you go out to eat afterwards? Did you guys do that? My family always did that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my family did too. It was great.
That's the brotherhood. We need brotherhood. President Oaks, I love you. We need the school of the prophets in every single ward.
Yeah.
In my humble and maybe wrong opinion.
I mean, there's merit to what's already been said about how, the Lord does challenge us. I mean, we used to hear tons and tons and tons of talks and resources about what? About trying to save resources and food and prepping and things like that. We don't really hear that too often. The Lord only says things so many times, and that's still something that we should do as members of the church because we don't know what exactly 100% is coming down the pipe. But yet, and I agree with Carden, and I also think correlation isn't necessarily causation, meaning two things can be true at one time, which is I do think that this change ultimately can be a good thing, but I'm getting some vibes here. I'm not trying to pick on you, Brad, but I served under a bishop that anytime we brought up any concerns about anything, he would lecture us, and he would always point to like Sermon on the Mount Jesus only, and he would like make us feel bad. I'm not saying you're making me feel bad, but he would like use his language in our word councils to sort of like disqualify our concerns. It's like, well, if brethren, if you just have faith, it's like, well, hold on, we can talk about issues. We can have opinions, and we can also workshop how we can be better without just blindly going on and accepting this and that and just saying, well, if you don't or if you have questions, you obviously don't have faith. It's just like, screw that. We all have faith. We're all here trying to be better. Not all of us, but you get what I'm saying. Like most people are there to magnify their callings the best of their ability, which if they aren't, I feel like we already talked about the accountability piece. But we should be able to say, well, in one breath, this works great for, let's say, split family homes, because I'm sure some people are like, well, if I only have my kid every other week, they're never going to attend a certain class or something like that. There's going to be tons of exceptions like that where they go, this is a blessing, this is great. You can also look at it from the lens of, oh, this is separating the wheat from the tares. Like, this is going to be a time, and C.S. Lewis talks about this too, that as you get better, as you grow, as you become closer to Heavenly Father, He's going to test you, He's going to challenge you. In fact, He told Joseph Smith this twice. This is a time for refinement. I'm going to try the saints by fire. This is something that I feel in my own life, that as I grow closer, as I'm challenged, as I get these callings, as I know more, I feel He pushes me more. He challenges me more. So I agree with that too, that it could be that. It's like, hey, we're putting something in front of you here, and it's not meant to be, let's say, a detriment or to cause harm to anyone, but it's meant to push you guys. I get that too. But we can also, I feel like, have a discussion and going, all right, it's not working. And whether that's the program or whether that's just the people involved, so let's go back to Elders Quorum again. Is it just the men? Well, if that's the case, and if we're saying that the church isn't going to help because they're trying to push you, separate the wheat from the tares, that's fine. But what are we going to do about it? And we can have this like Tony Robbins motivational talk about how everyone needs to stand up. We just had that at my priesthood meeting. Rise up, O men of Israel. We sang the hymn. Everyone was like, okay, but it's like, well, you gotta do it. And I feel like part of it is some of you guys were talking about that accountability piece and talking about that brotherhood, and that's where I think it can be. And yes, we can find it outside. I have good friends too, but they also don't believe in the same things I believe in. And when I talk about going to the temple, they don't know what I'm talking about. When I talk about my covenants, when they're talking about my magic underwear or whatever, that's we're just not on the same playing field. I need people that I go to, and I do have that. I go to the temple once a month with a certain brother, just him and I. And luckily, and I say that luckily, we live an hour and a half away from the temple. We stop and get bagels. It's a 2 hour round, or there and then back. So 4 hours just in travel. It's great. We do nothing but talk the entire time. That's what's missing. And the 25 minutes isn't going to accomplish that. So then it's got to be, okay, well, we got to figure something out either outside of it, or at least we got to. My first thing, I wasn't asked that question, but my one of my first things, if President Oak, called me, it would be, all right, can I at least make this a mandate that people prepare before they come to class? Like that's the expectation, meaning that I'm not going to spend the first 15, 20 minutes going, okay, brethren, what have we read today or this week? What really grabbed you? Oh, I'll wait. It's like, no, it's like we should have all read the same things. Or if you have something interesting, loop it into one of your answers. But like, this is what we've prepared. This is what we should discuss. And when the handbook uses language like spirit led, it doesn't mean let it go all over the place or half ass your lesson. That literally means that you're going to use the spirit that you have when you're preparing. You're reading the scriptures, you're preparing this lesson, and you can invite that same spirit. And I've seen lessons kind of deviate and go into good places, but most of the time it's because the teacher prepared and the people who came to learn because they were prepared. Anyways,
All right. I only got anything to say, Brad? I only have 4 more super chats before we jam.
Oh, I do want to say that, like, the things that I'm bringing up are not to say that there's no problem, right? Or just to say, just have faith, high five, that'll solve everything, right? I'm trying to get across practical applications of, like, hey, here is things that I think we could do within the structure that we currently have to maximize our own agency and to raise the bar for ourselves, because I don't think we can just count on anyone else to do that for us, right? It's great when we can. It's fantastic when we can. I am blessed, as I've mentioned a couple of times in this episode, to have a really fantastic elders quorum and really great ministers in my current ward. People who genuinely do care about me. I'm just trying to talk about things that I think are the kind of things that will build towards something good.
In your
I
defense,
agree
Brad,
with you.
you have the antithesis of that one poor woman that super chatted and said, I'm a widow that doesn't even know who my ministering sisters or brothers are. Like, you're the exact opposite. You're like, mine are great. I know exactly who they are, and they come and visit me. Meanwhile, there's some poor woman that's like in a retirement home and can't go to church. It's like, they've forgotten about me.
Yeah. And that's why I'm trying to bring up things like, hey, it's in LDS tools. You can see where they are, who they are, and then reach out, right? And, like, should that be on you? No. But because you have this problem, here is a meaningful way you can actually solve it that I think is helpful. And I think if we focus always on the negative and we just turn everything into a stumbling block, it does nothing to really engage in what God is asking us to do.
Guilty.
We're trying to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man, right? We want to focus on the uplifting and on the good as much as we can. And that's not me saying that we can never address the problems. I just think we should address them in a way that's, how can I solve this problem, right? Instead of looking for, like, how am I going to wait for other people to do it, right? Because that just doesn't.
Brad's been a part of Ward Radio for years. He's fine with talking about problems.
Okay, last 3 super chats. Last 3 super chats before we jam.
And then we'll hear from Relief Society.
Oh, and then we'll
All
hear from Relief
right.
Society. Okay, so here's the last 3 super chats right here. Thank you, everybody who has contributed to the super chats. In fact, I thought we were done, but 3 more slipped in right here, so I'm going to try and read them really fast. Mr. Bompampa says, this obsession with spiritual self-reliance is excessive. I can't be all people, same as most others. It's not efficient. Zion collaborates. People will withdraw since they, quote, don't need the church. I agree with a lot of that, man. I got to say I do. Not your average Dan. By the way, feel free to jump on in, guys, if you just want to say something in response to these. Not your average Dan says, totally hear the dilemma. I yearn for old days, milk, manuals, and meetings. This has caused me to seek out the good where I can, i.e. the very people here. Yeah, you know, a lot of us have talked about needing to go other places to find the camaraderie and so on and so forth that you used to find at church. And I don't think that's good for the church if its membership is having to seek something basic and necessary in other places. Yes, we do have to go out and be the salt which giveth the plate its savor and so on and so forth. But I mean, if idle hands are the devil's workshop, do you really, really want your young men having to go outside of the chapel to other peer groups in order to find the camaraderie they used to get in priesthood meeting and in church athletics and they could get in interest-based stake activity groups? Like, to me, that's just a recipe for failure.
It's a good thing they're meeting with their quorum more often now, so it's a good thing they're.
That's right.
Exactly.
Gotta keep them on the straight and easy.
More often than last year, but not as often as 4 years ago when we had 3 hours of church. You know.
but Carden, I think this is the kind of thing where it's say, hey, you've identified a lot of really good problems. Now, what can we do to solve those, right? Who's your high councilman that comes to your ward? Talk to that guy. Be like, bro, we don't have enough young men in my ward to do anything with our quorum. How can we solve this problem?
If this were accompanied,
with them.
if this kind of change in time of the weekly was done in order to make more room for like stake-based activity groups, then I actually be totally fine with this, because I really think the future success of the church should be in these interest-based stake activity groups. Like, I really think that is the revolutionary idea that we need to adopt. But my leadership doesn't listen to me, bro. I've tried 20 years of my life. Part of the reason why Ward Radio exists is because they listen to me so little. I finally just had to start spouting my ideas on the internet. So
and do it. That's a good use of your agency, right, Carden? Like, this is the kind of thing where sometimes you can just do stuff, and you can just do everything you can to be anxiously engaged in a good cause. Like, and again, I get it. I get what you guys are saying. I think
no, you can just do some things, but you can. Why do we have these lessons about, look, when you take these 7 twigs and you put them together, they're unbreakable. When individually they're breakable. Like, you can't just pull one twig out and say, this twig can, be just as good as. No, that defeats every object lesson we've ever given about working together as a whole for my entire life.
I'm not suggesting do it by yourself, right? That's another thing I want to get across.
I can't do scouts by myself. I cannot replace for my son. I can't do it by myself. I just physically can't.
So let's see. I really want to see what happens after this. If you talk to your ministers about it, and if you talk to maybe your high counselor for your ward or your elders quorum president, say, how do we solve this problem, right? I think those are 3 people you have direct access to try to figure out how to make this happen. Because maybe your bishop is not a fan of you and isn't listening to what you have to say, right? No. Talk to other people. Go figure stuff out. Like, I think when we look at like, I wish I could remember the story more precisely. But do you guys remember how Thomas S. Monson started just using the ward building more? And just having people meet together and doing social events. He was basically bringing together, I wish I knew exactly how it went, but this is something worth looking into for what we're talking about right now, because I think that all of these things could be better tools, not only for us to build our quorums, but also to get more built into our community. But I'm talking too much. So it's something to look into if we could
go back to collaborating with 501c3s in order to do good community building things, that'd be awesome. But that was all taken away.
One thing I want to say, Clint Thompson. That was the guy on X that mentioned Boyle's Law in relation to this. He just commented it. I'm like, yes, now I have some credit.
There is a story about how bitterness can kind of lead to apostasy. Have you heard the Thomas B. Marsh milk stripping story, Carden?
Not the cream strippings.
It might be applicable in.
What a Ward Radio checkmate.
Yes, seriously, that's funny. All right, last 2 super chats here. Quadiches says, kids are, quote, too busy now. Nobody shows up to mutual or stake basketball. I used to be told, quote, just go. Now kids won't go if it isn't interesting or fun, and parents don't make them go. Well, the truth is there definitely is competition now. The days of just like, show up on Tuesday, we're going to have fun, are gone, because kids have Instagram now and they know exactly what everybody else is doing on Tuesday night. And if what you have going on Tuesday night doesn't look as good as what they have going on Tuesday night, you're going to experience a loss of participation. So a lot of people that aren't used to having to show up prepared with something on Tuesday night that looks good and have it ready ahead of time are all of a sudden forced to, okay? But they're not actually doing it. And so they're just sucking and losing in participation. Last super chat here says Skylar Stemley 87. This conversation plus ideas proof we're strengthening. I think there's truth in that. And Mary Lou Howarth just slipped in our last super chat.
Mary Lou W.
Yeah, Mary Lou here just slipped in. And she says, right before we find out what Relief Society thinks about all this, sorry this is late, but I just looked on tools, and although I knew my ministering brothers and sisters, I found out I've been assigned a companion and 2 sisters to minister that I didn't know about.
There's all types of stuff on that app. It's sick. You can get your a priesthood line of authority. There's all types of stuff. Explore
Temple
that.
recommend. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I should do that.
I have a digital temple recommend. It's dope.
Yeah, I found out about that like literally on the way to the temple one day, and fortunately my bishop was like standing in the hallway and showed me how to do it. But okay, cool. Thank you very much, Mary Lou. You're always one of the more generous contributors to the channel. We've got like over 500, 600, almost 700 people watching right now, so that's actually pretty cool. All right, so one last announcement here before we hear from the Relief Society. Don't forget, we got our Salt Lake City Takeover General Conference Eve, Friday, April 3rd from 6 to 9 p.m. Yes, it is in a coffee shop, or at least the event center adjacent to the coffee shop. It's going to be a lot of fun. Austin, are you coming to that, bro?
No comment.
Oh, dang it. You're skipping out on me on that one. Bummer. Well, Brad's coming. So is Kwaku. So is Pastor Jeff from Hello Saints. We're going to have a conversation on the ethics of interfaith dialogue, some lessons he's learned, so on and so forth. Hopefully clear up some misconceptions about him. It actually should be a really, really fun conversation. I'm also talking on peacekeeping versus peacemaking with Jared Halverson. And then going to do a little bit of kind of like a Kill Tony Live-esque thing with a lot of the influencers, ask them fun questions, bring them up on stage for a second, hopefully introduce the audience to another 5 to 10 other influencers that exist for free out there on cyberspace. So it should be a lot of fun. And we've received the records before we talk to Relief Society of Quadiches, who has joined the Ward Radio Wigwam. Everybody would like to welcome Quadiches. Please put a W in the chat. Final thoughts before we ask all the guys what they're up to, and they tell us what they're working on before we go. Relief Society, go. What do you think? Tell us where we go wrong.
And nice shoulders, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my goodness. Relief Society will be just fine.
You guys will survive this?
I'll survive just fine.
All right.
You heard it here first. Relief Society's fine.
Relief Society, they're
There it is. Look at that.
Well, that's what our
they're-
church
they're
really
gonna
cares
get rid of-
about.
They're going to get rid of the council session in Relief Society where you like start with a council question and it'll just go straight to.
Just fine with me.
All right. All right.
See?
Yeah.
Look at that. Zero.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That's funny. And then Quadich's last super chat here says, cheaper than my Daily Wire sub I canceled. Wow, that is actually super hilarious. That one's making it on the screen. That was pretty funny. So, all right, guys, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. This has been awesome. We are like deep into overtime. I'm sorry I held on to you guys for so long here, but we had a killer crew today. This was a good one. This was like top 10 live stream for me. I had a ton of fun doing this. Guys, you're all doing stuff. Before we go, what are you working on? Let's start top and go clockwise. Hayden Home, tell us what you're working on and where people can find you, bro.
Yeah, so people can find me at the Salty Saints on YouTube or on Instagram. We're over there as well. And then we have a men's event. So speaking of Elders Quorum, if you're in a Dad Elders Quorum, come check out our Discord, dadsneedfriends.com. We share memes, we talk faith, family, finance, and all the things. So we're trying to help shake up Elders Quorums. We have a whole thread about how you can shake up your Elders Quorum in there. And then on top of that, April 24th and 25th, we're hosting a big men's event where we're actually getting in person. We're going to be doing a lot of things together. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have hikes. There's going to be actual licensed mental health care professionals there that are going to teach us stress management for fathers, ice bath plunges. We're going to be doing a lot of protein out there and a video game tournament. So it should be a lot of fun.
Doing protein?
What was that?
You say
Yeah,
doing
just like
protein like
Eating
it's a drug.
steak, Carden.
We're doing protein. You know how the kids say you do things these days? Anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing all that stuff. You can learn more about it at dadsneedfriends.com. That's dadsneedfriends.com.
You sound like a radio ad. I love it. Ben, talk to
Yeah.
me, bro. What are you up to, dog?
Oh, just no, skip me. I'm not doing anything.
Okay, we'll skip you.
He's
Austin.
building the kingdom of God on the earth.
Yes.
I have no
Yeah.
podcast.
Look at that.
With the-
Preach.
With the David Beckham do. Hey, we'll claim you here. You can just say, find me here on Ward Radio.
Yeah.
You know?
You can find me here on Word Radio. I am writing a book, though. I will say that.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah. Austin, What are you up to, bro? What you working on?
Yeah, you can find me at By Small and Simple Screens, but I accidentally renamed my channel to Eyes to See. I can change it back in 14 days. So By Small and Simple Screens is my YouTube channel, and it's fun. We do worldview and media reviews from a Latter-day Saint lens.
Oh, dude, you accidentally changed your YouTube handle, bro.
Yeah, don't talk to me about it.
Bro, that's funny. That is just funny. I love that. And by the way, I couldn't think of a better professional for that to happen to. You know what I'm saying? That's just so funny.
I was trying to see if it was available. I initially wanted it to be Eyes to See, and that wasn't available. So I tried Eyes, the letter 2, and then See, just to see if it was broken. And then it saved. And so now I'm stuck with this stupid number 2. Yeah, it's a thing.
Oh, man, that's funny.
This too shall pass.
Hayden, what are you working on, bro? Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Let's Talk with Hayden Carroll. We are sharing the gospel and changing the world one conversation at a time, mostly with college students on ASU campus.
Dude.
And come say hi.
Dude, rock on. That's pretty bass, dude. And then Brad, what are you working on, bro? What are you doing? Where can people find you?
Oh, well, before I get into that, I just want to say the people that I love and respect most out of all of this conversation are those who have liked the stream. And so
look at that.
Just making sure, a final call for everybody to go ahead and like this stream, like and subscribe to Ward Radio. We have wonderful discussions here, things that I think are really important for people to talk about. So what I'm doing is I'm mostly writing fantasy books with my wife. So you can find us, we're using a pen name. You can find us here on YouTube at Blake Raven Pen, or on, what is it called? Instagram, at Blake Raven Pen. And something cool, guys, this is kind of interesting. We just put up our audiobook of our first book here, Dragon Thief.
Oh, cool.
It's available free on the Golden Griffin Press channel. So if you look up Skystone Chronicles, Dragon Thief, Golden Griffin, I think that should take you right to it. And you'll be able to just listen to our audiobook right there. My wife and I are actually the people who narrated it. We narrated it as well. We used our real names for that. So if you check that out, it's a lot of fun. You can see our books and all of our stuff at skystonechronicles.com. And it's going to be a blast. I hope we see a lot of you at the event that Cardin's talking about on April 3rd. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. One last shout out for the Ward Radio Salt Lake City Takeover on General Conference Eve, Friday, April 3rd, 6 to 9 p.m. If you haven't got your tickets, please make sure you guys get your tickets. Also, if you're not able to go to that event, but you want to support the channel, please make sure that you guys check out our merch store where you can buy a shirt and or a hat, especially one of our popular War in Heaven veteran hats that are available in our merch store. Other than that, guys, unfortunately, we got to go. This has been totally awesome. We love hanging out with you guys. This has been a great stream. Just like Jack Black used to say in School of Rock, one rock concert could change the world. One live stream could change the world. And this one, I don't know how much we changed, but I want to be more like Brad. So anyway, it's been real.
Thanks, Carl.
And it's been fun.
What would Brad Whitbeck do, you know?
Yeah, WW.
No, I feel like we should just aim higher there, and we'll have a better time.
Well, definitely not what would Ben Kaiser do, because we'd all end up being good looking but very cynical. And quoting J. Reuben Clark. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kidding. So anyway.
No. Hey, being able to quote J. Reuben Clark is a good thing, right? Like I really do think
because he went to 3-hour church.
Actually, he went to a lot more. Yeah. If you're looking at the amount of time when he was a kid,
he went to 5-day church.
Yeah, based. It's been real, and it's been fun, and it's been real fun. For this and more, please make sure you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement.